Excellent.
How did the rest of your day go? Oh, really?
No, I'm fine. No. Yeah, I know, but I've seen it. All 100 pages committed to memory. I know, that was the whole thing.
So you obviously didn't read it, which you didn't know.
Oh, I did.
I didn't. It's very nice of you to do that, but thank you. I'll be glad for it.
Oh, thanks, Kate. Nothing but paper clips, huh? Look what I got. Interesting.
We have paper clips and.
Yes.
All right. Thanks everybody for coming out tonight. Quick show of hands. Who's above 18 years old? That means we're all adults, so we can conduct this meeting as adults, and I'm looking forward to that. Thank you. Welcome to the Charlottesville Board of Architectural Review's regular meeting. The BAR is appointed by City Council to administer the provisions of Charlottesville City Code related to architectural design control districts, individually protected properties, and historic conservation districts. At the beginning of the meeting, the BAR will allow matters from the public not on the agenda, followed by action on the consent agenda. And then the BAR will formally review 2 certificate of appropriateness applications. Just for the record, the matter on the consent agenda is front landscape alteration at 422 2nd Street Northeast. And so if you have any comments on that, then the matters for the public is when to talk about that. So we realize there's a lot of folks that would like to speak this evening. We've got sign-up sheets up front here. If you could sign up, that helps us go through the list in an orderly fashion. So in order to assure that we can perform our duties for this meeting, we are going to amend the bylaws or the meeting agenda as follows. So during matters from the public not on the agenda, the number of speakers will be limited to 5. Each speaker will identify themselves, provide their address, and be allowed to speak once for up to 2 minutes. Comments must be limited to the BAR's purview. And again, that's on things not on the agenda. And then during our new items, 3 and 4, which are specifically the 210, 216 West Market Street and the 7th Street parcels, city staff will introduce each item, followed by the applicant's presentation, which should not exceed 10 minutes. Following those 2 reports, I will invite questions and comments from the public. Each speaker will identify themselves, provide their address, and be allowed to speak once again for 2 minutes. Comments must be limited to the BAR's purview, that is, regarding only the exterior aspects of a project. Per the BAR's charge from City Council and per City Code requirements for a major historic review. Following any public comments, the BAR will then offer its questions and comments to the applicant, after which the applicant will have up to 3 minutes to respond to each question or comment, and a period that may be extended at my discretion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Further discussion? All right, we'll call a vote. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. So we welcome public participation. Everybody in here is a part of this meeting, right? It's not us. It's not just our meeting, it's y'all's meeting too. So we want to invite y'all to please participate, but we want to do so in a civil and orderly manner. So in order to ensure that, we're going to act like adults. We'd like you guys to please address the BAR, don't address the applicant, don't address other people in the room. Focus your comments towards us, keep your comments to our purview, which again is the exterior of the building. Public attacks, abusive language, actions that disrupt or impede the meeting's progress are prohibited. And so, we do have the right and reserve the right to ask folks to leave if they get disruptive, but I don't think we're gonna have to do that. So we're looking forward to the conversation. All right. First off, we have matters from the public not on the agenda. Do we have anybody who would like to speak on items not on the agenda? Anybody online?
If you're online and would like to speak, please raise your hand. Nope, we're good.
Okay. Thank you. All right, our next item is the consent agenda, which includes the meeting minutes from October 21st, as well as the COA application for 422 2nd Street Northeast, a front landscape alteration, which was an application that we've all seen. I'm going to abstain because I was not present at the October 21st meeting.
Move to approve the consent agenda?
Second.
Call a vote. Mr. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Burrell?
Aye.
Ms. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Timmerman?
Aye.
Jerry? Sorry. Mr. Rosenthal?
Yes.
Ms. Taveney?
Yes.
Great. And I abstain because I wasn't here. Thank you.
So that is, if Mike and Aaron are listening at home, their COA is approved per the recommended motion in the staff report. And please, you can take your sign down in your front yard. Have a nice Christmas. All right.
All right. We have no deferred items. Our first new item is a certificate of appropriateness application for 210 to 216 West Market Street. Mr. Warner, would you like to give us
Yes, I
your
will.
introduction, please?
Yeah, I will. So, this is, so I'm trying to read there from the screen. I know I've wandered the last couple of meetings as we get used to the new things, but this is 210, 216 West Main Street. We had looked at it before, it was 214, but various address changes. It is, so we're going to call it 210, 216. That's the lot where Brown's Lock and Safe is currently located. This is a request to demolish the building, which you all had approved, I think in 2022, and the COA was extended, but that will expire in February. And so the applicant has requested to have that, well, it's come in as a new request. The difference in this request is that previously we had, as a condition of approval, required an approved site plan, a building permit for what was going to go there, which is not unusual. But the applicant's interested in using this site following demolition as a construction yard, a laydown area for the construction of the hotel, planned hotel at 218 West Market. And with that, that's why the condition in the staff report is now changed to that it requires to get that permit. And part of that permit is that once it's not being used for the construction project, the site has to be stabilized and seeded, and essentially would become a grassy knoll until someone does something with it. But an interesting piece of this project, of this parcel that Mr. Gastinger, who had been on BAR and former chair, always used to ask us to tell the story of the site when we could, and this one has a really unique one. This, as you see on the map here, in 1877, that's the earliest map we have of Charlottesville. We know there were 3 frame structures here. We actually have photographs of them, 2 of them on the Brown's Lock and Safe lot, and in fact, they're, so the picture probably looks familiar, but imagine you're standing at McGuffey, looking down the hill. Common Hall there on the left is still there. Fellini's would be on the far left, just outside. The Brown's Lock and Safe site, you see those two frame structures there. And then you see another frame structure to the right, which is in the parking lot of what was the Artful Lodger. And then, of course, the building you see, the white building there is that building on Old Preston that has the stone facing to it. So part of what we required with the demolition of the Artful Lodger was a Phase 1 archaeological investigation, and we're going to be extending that also onto this site. And we've been doing a lot, to the extent we can, trying to research who lived at this site. And it's a pretty interesting story to be told there, and we're hoping to fill in the blanks. But as early as 1888, that's the earliest I can find, but those dwellings were a series of black families lived there all the way up into about the late 1920s. We suspect, as we pull at the threads a little bit, that they likely lived there earlier. And so again, it's an interesting story of downtown that hopefully we can bring to the surface, and that's why in the recommendation there's the requirement of the Phase 1 archaeology, and then the recommendation that when the hotel and anything that they build at that site, that story would be interpreted and presented in the new buildings. And so it's a nice opportunity to show, what's going on underground. And well, we're not going to be it would just be a Phase 1, so it'll be an investigation. But if there's an opportunity to do more, maybe Kate and I can work with the owner to explore things further. So, and then you all had asked me about the stone wall. That was a recommendation in the COA. It's not a requirement, but the recommendation that that stone that's there and is prevalent downtown be incorporated to anything new that gets constructed there. But that's way down the roads. That's sort of a placeholder for when something comes in. I know Kevin is right there. I don't know if you had any comments on that, but I think you were supposed to say you love it, and you got called deep off the bench to come here tonight, so.
Thank you, Jeff, for that introduction. I don't have too much to add because that was very thorough, and I appreciate all the diligence and research. My name is Kevin Schaefer with Design Develop Architects. I think the distinguishing element of tying this to the building permit of the hotel is a smart one, just from a logistical consideration of the adjacent lot and the construction in a tight downtown corridor. The site would be used for laydown, for deliveries, for parking for workers, and it would offer a lot of flexibility and keep sort of construction traffic to a minimum, or certainly minimize it. So we appreciate staff's recommendations. We're certainly amenable to the 3 conditions listed. The Phase 1 archaeological is no problem. The existing building documentation, we happen to know some people with a 3D point cloud scanner. So, and the third condition of tying it to the permit for a temporary construction yard is exactly what we would aim to use it for. The site would be secured with a opaque fence, probably similar to the one that was around the Code building during that construction. It would be at a height that's appropriate, secured appropriate, and meeting all of the Charlottesville design standards, as staff mentioned. Again, appreciate staff's diligence in their research. A little ambiguous on the recommendations. I've never been through a recommendation on a COA process before, and I'm not sure if that's something that gets tied directly to the approval, the COA, and what that entails. The applicant has requested maybe it's just read into the record, and then the conditions that are required are part of the COA in lieu of having it a recommendation on an official COA. But otherwise, I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have And I may have to defer to Jeff because I think he has more information than I do. But I'm happy to answer any questions. Oh, one thing I did want to do, I'm sorry, is I wanted to read this letter from Mr. Brown.
It's fine.
Does the board have the letter?
They may, but the owner of Brown's Lock and Safe expressed support for, or the former, or the owner of the property expressed support for this request.
Mr. Brown puts it well. My family has been doing business in this city since 1950, and we have owned and operated this location at 210 Market since 1970. We decided to close operations at this location and sell the property to Mr. Levine several years ago, and the timing of the sale has finally developed to happen soon. The property has no historical or other significant meaning to my family, nor to the community, in my opinion. He then goes to say, I would not recommend the demolition of this building at 210 West Market Street if I felt anything of historic value could be salvaged. However, this building has been modified and torn apart so many times through the years that as it stands, it retains almost nothing of the original structure and character. Even the roof was torn off and completely replaced back before 2010. Aside from replacing the roof, which is a dire necessity at the time, my family has seen no good purpose in further renovation over the years. As it, we consider this property a severe eyesore, and it has always been the vision of my family and Mr. Levine that after purchasing the property, he would demolish the building and allow development of a use that would bring more economic and social vitality to downtown Charlottesville, as well as a visual relief when coming up the hill from Ridge McIntyre. As I understand his plans, he will also temporarily use the property as a staging area and construction trailer during the construction of the Marriott Hotel next door. We urge the approval of the extension of the demolition permit and the demolition of this building.
All right, thank you. Do we have any questions or comments from the public? Or online? Nobody online? Okay. Any questions or comments from the BAR? Yes, sir.
Jeff, I wanted to find out, what does Phase 1 archaeological thing mean?
So, a Phase 1 archaeological investigation is a, Kate will jump in and help me here, it's as much, maybe more so a history examination of the site, looking at the the documentation that's available, what does that tell us? For example, the information I've been collecting. They will typically do a series of what they call shovel test pits at a certain, 20-foot increment or whatever, just to sort of determine, is there something here? Now, a site like this, the archaeologists know what they may or may not find. They may say, well, there's no point in any sort of test pits. They may say, hey, we want to take a look over here, but it's you're not going to see anything even close to what we saw at the Swan Tavern site. This is it more than anything kind of produces the documentary background, the historic background that then informs decisions about if something will be done further on the site. What would be really interesting is that if there were something worth looking at, the applicant's not obligated to do that. All they do is produce the Phase 1. But it would be an opportunity for us to then partner with them and say, all right, can we take a closer look? How can we work that out? But
Is it possible if they did find something that it could delay?
No, the data in the Phase 1 that was recovered would indicate if any other additional survey would be necessary. So
And
it's
that would be their-
data-based.
yeah.
It's not just like, oh, hey, let's do this.
they would not have to do it. And the only thing that would stop a project on it is if you found burials on a site, and that's a state law, that's not our law. But no, we can only ask them to do that Phase 1. Hopefully, some information comes forward that maybe invites some further looks, but they're not obligated to. But we will get the story of that site, at least of the people that live there, and I think to elevate that and sort of interpret that. And that's why, to Kevin's point about it's a recommendation from the BAR, you can't require it. We've used over the years, different words. We've urged, we've encouraged, but at least stating it in the motion, it becomes part of the record in a way you don't have to go searching for it. And if you are encouraging them to do it, then have that as part of your motion. But no, I can't, when they come in with a building permit, they say, yeah, you encouraged us, thank you, but I'm not doing it. I can't stop them. Right. So the language is nothing unusual from what we've been doing for some time.
But we can require record documentation. Can we require the level 1? The archaeology, okay.
And it's already being,
So
yeah,
the
it's already
first
being
three-
done.
Basically, the first three things are the requires, and then there's some recommendations. If we,
Wait, change what to where?
sorry, in the staff's recommended approval with conditions, the first 3 items are what we
Correct.
can require. The
The
last
first
2 are
bullet, and then the 3
sub-bullets.
semi-bullets.
Right, that's
Right,
right.
those are conditions, and then the last 2 bullets are recommendations that you are making to the applicant.
Yeah. As the BAR, what y'all's feelings are on these conditions? If you agree with them all, or if there's any that you feel are unnecessary, or,
I had a question about the recommendation to, I guess, keep the stone wall in the back.
No, not, yeah, it just simply are encouraging that in whatever, when this had been previously discussed, the idea was of a new building there.
Oh,
And so it was
okay.
encouraging, hey, can you incorporate this stone that's there, incorporate it into the building? A little bit had, what had come out of, well, you all weren't involved in the stone house over on Stadium Road, and although it's an IPP, but an entrance corridor, you didn't see it. So it's just, it was in the prior report, but it's not a requirement.
Is it even relevant, though, this being a demo?
That's up to you to decide.
And do we need to address the prior recommendations in our motion tonight, or no? Is this a totally
No,
new-
it's what was there before, so I included that and explained it, but it's not like saying you've got to stack those stones, those exact stones have to be used. It's just simply that's a construction element that's typical downtown. It's on this site, and it was a thought relative to the future project, but you can remove that entirely, and when this comes in, if it ever comes in as something new, encourage them to use stone in it. So it's a cosmetic thing, and it's a recommendation only. It's,
I don't feel that strongly about the stone personally, but if we want to leave it in as a recommendation, it is just a recommendation. You know?
Are we commenting now? Is that-
Yeah, these are questions and comments.
Oh, questions, gotcha, okay. I was actually thinking it would probably be better to remove the stone wall, just to
Right.
create more of a planting area, so I don't
Yeah.
think we should hold on to that.
Any other comments or questions?
I mean, I think given the applicant supports the conditions, I support the conditions. The first recommendation seems kind of irrelevant to me, since we don't know what's going to be built there, and this is just a demo permit, so I would recommend not recommending it.
Right.
And then the third, I think, is just kind of a no-brainer. I'm always in support of understanding the history in which the site world in which we're dealing with and looking at.
Just to be clear, I'm not, the last time we discussed this, and certainly tonight, we weren't saying that stone wall has to stay there.
That's right.
Or those stones.
Sure, yeah.
We were just saying it's an element that could be considered. All right.
Anybody want to make a motion? I can do it.
And I'm fine at making a motion and referring to the recommended conditions on page 3 of the staff report, and omitting one if you wish.
I'll make a motion.
All right.
Having considered the standards set forth within the city code, including the ADC district design guidelines, I move to find that the proposed demolition of 210-216 West Main Market Street satisfies the BAR's criteria and guidelines and is compatible with this property and other properties in the ADC district, and that the BAR approves the application as submitted with the following conditions prior to preservation. Number one, prior to the preservation, of these following conditions. Number one, applicant will secure the necessary permit for the site to be used as a temporary construction yard to support construction of the hotel at 218 West Market Street, including installation of a construction barrier appropriate for downtown.
Mr. Timmerman, let me interrupt you for a minute. So those three sub-conditions are, there's a requirement in the first bullet that's necessary to state.
Okay.
So,
I'll read-
yeah.
Let me start over
You can
then.
say prior to staff, but I had prior to preservation and design staff.
Okay.
Kate and I, we have to approve demolition permits.
Okay,
And so
well-
prior to us approving that permit, they would have to meet those. So that first line is important. Sorry.
So strike.
Is it possible to gain clarity on the recommendations? What do we, I guess you're about to do that
Yeah.
before we read it all.
I was going to omit the first recommendation and include the second recommendation.
Okay. Thank you.
Like
Sorry.
that
Just-
makes
Do you know
sense
what
to-
those are?
Yes.
So let me start over, starting at prior to preservation and design staff approval of a demolition permit to raise the existing building at 210, 216 West Market Street. Applicant will secure the necessary permit for the site to be used as a temporary construction yard to support construction of the hotel at 218 West Market Street, including installation of a construction barrier appropriate for downtown, per City of Charlottesville standards and design manual. Applicant will provide for the BAR record documentation of the existing building. In addition to the photos provided, documentation will include dimensioned floor plans and elevations. And in coordination with the required examination of 218 West Market Street, condition of COA for BAR number HST 25-0076, applicant will complete and provide for the BAR record Phase 1 archaeological investigation of the site. Will also include a recommendation that within the new building at 218 West Market Street and any subsequent development of 210-216 West Market Street, the history of this site or these sites, including recognition of the individuals who lived and worked there, is presented and interpreted.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any further discussion?
Give it to Kate.
All right. We'll call for a vote. Mr. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Burrell?
Aye.
Ms. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Timmerman?
Yes.
Mr. Rosenthal?
Yes.
Ms. Taverny?
Yes.
I vote yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you.
All right. Our next agenda item is tax map 29, parcels 71, 73, 74, 75, 76, 202, 204, 208, and 214 7th Street Southwest, and 613 Delavan Street, 204 and 208 7th Street Southwest are individually protected properties. So I know this is what most folks are here to talk about this evening, and we're welcoming everybody to comment on this. For those of y'all who may have arrived late, we passed a motion at the beginning of the meeting where we're going to combine comments and questions for our speakers at 2 minutes. We've got sign-up sheets up here too, if you guys would like to, if anybody needs to come up. And I just wanted to also summarize, just so folks understand the overall process for these large projects, and that we've seen this project come to us a couple times now from preliminary discussions. This is the first time it's been brought to us for a full COA. And just make it clear that the BAR is like a group of volunteers. We're not elected officials, and we're not paid. So we are here to interpret and, I don't know if enforce is the right word, but is that the right word for the city council's guidelines?
Implement.
Yeah,
Because council ultimately
implement, thank
has
you.
the final say.
They're city council's design guidelines. They're not the Board of Architectural Reviews guidelines, right? And so therefore, any application that comes to us can be appealed to city council. And it can be appealed by either side, right? So just for example, let's say we were to approve this, any aggrieved party from the public could appeal that decision to city council, right? And On the converse, if we denied this project, the applicant could appeal it to city council, right? Also, if we approve it with conditions, the applicant could appeal those conditions to city council. Does that make sense? So just want to kind of make everybody aware that is a further step in the process, if it becomes needed for anyone. So, all right. Mr. Werner, would you like to give our staff report, please?
Kate, do you have who's running our clock?
I'm running the clock.
Okay.
I don't think staff report has a timer.
10 minutes in the penalty box, better let me out.
Are we 10 minutes on staff report?
I don't,
It should be.
Limiting staff
Should
report?
be.
staff
That's
gets
right.
10 minutes.
It's in my work plan, work on my brevity.
Is that on your annual review?
I get free donuts next year
Very good.
if I need it.
Mr. Warner, real quick, did you want to mention the period in which people have to appeal?
Oh, yeah, thanks.
I will, at the end of the meeting, review the whole appeal process so that everyone is crystal clear on it. Let's not start out with that. Yeah, I know. So quickly, this is, I think, the fourth time you all have had a look at this. This is the first time it's come forward for formal action by the BAR. The action's available to you. You all can approve it. You can approve it with conditions. You can also deny it. And because it's the first time you see it, you can also defer it. The BAR can defer it to the next meeting, which is Wednesday, the 21st of January. It's bumped because of the holiday, so mark your calendars. So but the primary reason, and I think a lot of people are misunderstood the BAR's purview in this, but the only reason you are looking at this is because of the two late 19th century brick houses at 204 and 208 7th Street. They are designated individually protected properties by the city, and therefore they're afforded the same protection by the overview of the BAR as if they are their own discrete districts. What's unusual about when you're evaluating an IPP, IPP being individually protected property, is that this isn't like West Main Street where the entire street is in a district and you're looking at the rest of the district. Here, what you have to evaluate are those two structures and the rehabilitation that's being proposed on them and the impact of this new development. Were this project to not include those two buildings at all, there would be no design review. Say even furthermore, something that happens on the south side of Delavan Street or across 7th Street or on the properties to the east of this, except I think there is an IPP, there's no design review. That is by right, and they follow the building code. So you all have the circumstances in which you're looking at this is because of the IPPs. And the design guidelines that apply to IPPs are our design guidelines for districts. So that's why there's sometimes it seems we're talking about a larger place, but you are looking at these two buildings. And first and foremost, again, how are these buildings being treated? And the applicant has provided a rather detailed plan for how to rehabilitate them. I think there will be some questions along the way. There's a couple things I've noted as recommended conditions, but we certainly welcome the opportunity to not see these being raised. The context that we looked at this at the very beginning was something similar to what happened at the Quirk, which envelops two, I think, early 20th century buildings, and people have argued, successfully maintained those as part of the new design. So that's somewhat of the context at which we looked at that. The second piece that you are looking at is the design of the new building itself. Because it is encroaching onto these properties, it's subject to the design review. There are four sides to every building and while you're looking at this mainly relative to the IPPs, you also, from a design perspective, we're looking at all four walls. You couldn't, or I would argue, it's not the BAR's job to say, well, we only care about the front of the building and the other three walls could be, tar paper or vinyl siding. So the consistency of the architecture of the entire building is something that you all are commenting on and have been. But it's the context of this, as you are reviewing the guidelines, as far as what council has established, is through the lens of those two buildings. Another thing I mentioned, for a large-scale project, we are now reviewing the site plan, a first round of the site plan comments, and that's necessary. We've agreed as staff, because we've had some projects that kind of will go on two parallel paths, and there's some site plan questions that don't get answered, and you find out, well, this can't be built or this can't be done. So we've had that first round of site plan comments, but they are to identify primarily, is this an unbuildable project, and nothing in that letter indicated that. For example, if the comments had come back and said the zoning here doesn't allow a 7-story building, or there's a culvert running underneath of it, you can't build on top of it. Nothing like that occurred. The comments that came back, the applicant, when I asked, is there anything in there that will that you would have to address that would change the design of this building as it's being presented to the BAR? They responded that they can resolve these things during the site plan without, I think, and all projects have slight tweaks, so I think without significantly altering the design. If an understanding now that's before you, the design that's presented tonight to vote up or down, or you're to take action on, if, however long from now, when they wrap up the development plan and the site plan, that results in this thing changes have to be made, then we'll evaluate that. So that's the risk the developer and the applicant are taking here, that they can, with this design approval, continue forward and not have to change it as they get their site plan approved. So the criteria you're looking at, again, primarily the rehabilitation of the two structures, but also the new development incorporating the design guidelines for site design and elements, and of course the design guidelines for new construction and additions. And I know, because you all have asked me questions and folks in the community have asked me questions, we have a zoning ordinance adopted by City Council 2 years ago now that allows much larger buildings, much closer to the street and much closer together than had been contemplated when the design guidelines were developed. So there is let's acknowledge it, there's a challenge here that a strict application of the design guidelines arguably could be, in conflict with what zoning allows. But that's where here the process works. You all evaluate this per the design guidelines. And if you feel like and it's not a checklist, and I want to make that clear. Someone could not feed our guidelines into a chat bot and come up with a design. It doesn't work that way. Not everything applies. There's flexibility built into this. They are guidelines, and there is no you shall not. Second, as you all know, your decision is appealable to council. So if you all say, I love it, and vote for it right now, someone can appeal that, or if you decide you don't support it and deny it, that can be appealed to council. In that regard, in fact, in all COAs, you all are essentially making a recommendation to council. 99% of the time, there isn't an appeal, so it doesn't get challenged. Your job is to look at the guidelines. If you support this design and you support the planned rehabilitation of those two buildings, then, in fact, quoting our code, you should vote to approve the COA. And if you feel that the project does not meet the guidelines, it's not compatible and it conflicts with the guidelines, then you, per the code, could vote to deny the COA. So I think There are a lot of questions that, again, have come to me about this project that simply do not fall under your purview. I can't, it's not that I want it to be that way or not, it just simply is. Your requirements are established by city code. Guidelines are adopted by city council, not you all. That's the discretionary stuff. And then you all are appointed by city council. So it's so make clear that you cannot decide that you are opposed to the zoning ordinance, or you can't decide that this shouldn't be an apartment building. You have to look at this through the filter of the design guidelines. Or I'm advising you to. You can certainly say whatever you wish. So with that, do you have any questions for me?
No.
Then,
All right. Would the applicant like to make their presentation? Find the page where I had a question.
For them. Yeah, that was.
This is a big project to have 10 minutes on, but we'll do our best.
Do your best.
Okay. So, good evening. I'm John Matthews with Mitchell Matthews Architects, and I'm joined by my colleagues Alan Wong and Jim Duxbury. Thanks for your feedback on this project over the last 6 months. It's been very valuable. We feel the design has improved considerably, primarily based on the impact, the input that you have given us over those 6 months. So thank you for that. We also believe that this project ticks virtually every box required for its approval. It rehabilitates and protects those historic buildings. And remember, that's really the sole purpose we're here. Oh, sorry, our clicker's not working. Stop the timer.
Can I?
I can keep...
me to fix technology to get better.
If you need to, just say next slide, and I'll advance the slide.
You said that.
Okay, say next slide.
Okay. So you're going to have to say the next slide. Okay. So
Next
we
slide,
also...
please.
Okay, next slide. Okay, good. So we also believe this project ticks virtually all the boxes necessary for approval. It rehabilitates and protects the IPPs, and that specifically is the one reason we're here. It's not the building, because if we stayed out of the IPPs, that building could still be built. So I just want to emphasize that's the issue, is the IPPs, and I want to try to stay on that track. It complies with the comp plan, the zoning ordinance, the affordable housing manual, and contributes millions of dollars to the city's essential public services. This list behind you is just a partial list of all the attributes this project offers. We would like to quickly run through a recap of, this is a very large submission, so I'd like to recap those, illustrating sort of how the project's evolved, reinforcing why we're here, and try to address what we understand might be some of the lingering concerns by some folks.
Next slide, please. So we are here for these two requests to seek permission from BAR to demolish the minor non-contributing additions to the two IPPs, also to allow the construction on the same IPP parcels. And we'd like to address right now the context that this new proposed building would provide that would be appropriate and meaningful to those two IPPs. Next slide. This is simply showing the context around the site, which is in red. Above, it's directly adjacent to the train tracks. Beyond that is West Main Street. below the site, you'll see it's right on the edge of Fifeville. Next slide, please. The following slides are showing the conditions of the two IPP historic houses. Next slide. The exterior shows the conditions of, and we've been finding that they are structurally compromised and that they are in the process of progressive failure. You'll see on the inside, next slide, it's the same sort of dilapidated condition, serious damage, which will have to go undergo serious rehabilitation. Next slide.
So this graphic shows the current zoning of the property on the, let me reinforce, it's on the extreme edge of Fifeville. Some people might think it's closer to West Main than Fifeville. The previous map showed where it is. It often gets lost also that this entire area, not just the site, is zoned for higher density. And the other thing that gets lost, and you don't hear very often, is that this site, this area was previously zoned for high density. This is not new. This was for decades it's been zoned for higher density. This is a former industrial site, has been neglected for decades. Those of you that have had a chance to go by would I'm sure agree with that. It's important to emphasise or re-emphasise that this project, as Jeff said, is not in a design control district, nor is the adjoining neighbourhood.
Next slide, please.
So we brought in some additional boards here to help quickly recap some of the major changes and improvements we've made. These boards will remind you of how this project has evolved over time, as well as how your input has affected it. And next. The second board illustrates our response to Bar's comment back in August, I believe it was. Can the height along 7th Street be reduced by removing the massing back to the rear of the property and by stepping down the wings? And yes, we accomplished that by pushing the bulk of the center section of the building, which are located directly behind the cottages, back a little over 100 feet from the street. We also removed units at the top and stepped down the ends of each wing at the street face and adjacent towards the cottage.
So I'm not sure who's clicking that, but those images shouldn't be moving. Sorry. Who's in charge of that?
And next board, this, yeah, this board, it was Bar comment number 2. Can you articulate the building facade to be more sympathetic to the scale of the houses? And in our previous design, we had the brick towers that you commented upon. So in this change, we brought in that base by creating a 2-story band that helped organize and pull in those existing houses into a more pedestrian-friendly scale, streetscape.
So moving on now to comments from your last meeting, or our last meeting. Can the building, you asked for the building massing to be pushed back on the front of the building. We came to subsequent meetings, then you asked for the massing to be pushed back on the side of the building. So these, each meeting we were asked to do more. So this is the previous.
Can you go back?
Yeah, can somebody slow down?
2 more.
And we'll say, we'll say
there, right there,
slide,
that's good.
yeah,
Yep.
as we do it. So this is the elevation as proposed. And you asked, can this massing also along Delavan Street be reduced? And our answer to that, we went back and looked at it, and the answer is yes, it can be reduced. Next slide, please. This is a roof plan, and this also illustrates, those of you that are interested in the details, many of the changes that we've made based on your comments over the many months. The latest comment, or request or suggestion that we consider is the transition shown in yellow on the screen. That's where we're taking a story off the Delavan Street site. We're reducing the mass again. Next. what that looks like. The violet that's a bit washed out there, the violet is a whole story that's coming off Delavan Street. Next. This is that elevation. Remember, Delavan Street is a side street. This is a very short, dead-end, narrow street. There's two houses opposite this. This is the side elevation. Next. Bar comment, what is the impact of this project on the IPPs? We think this project protects and honours those IPPs. Next. What is the impact on the neighbourhood? This is less than a block away. In the larger package, we have images from all around Fifield. You can only see the top of this building. This is the corner of Dice and 5th Street. These are accurate representations, so the impact we feel is absolutely negligible.
Next slide, please. This returning to the IPPs, where we are assuring that the windows and all the major character defining features will follow the Secretary of Interior's standards for rehabilitation, especially those facing the street. Next slide. The bar comment, what is the project's impact on the First Baptist Church? This is the side, this is the rear of the church building. On the other side of the tracks, the building is on, would be facing it. Those things that look like windows are actually painted boards, so there's no light or views being let into the sanctuary from those. Next slide. And then can you flip 2 more?
This is related to bar comment number 5. Can you flip the sidewalk and the planting strip along 7th Street and Delavan Street? No. Currently, based on discussions with planning, engineering, and the fire marshal, various existing conditions along both streets forced us to locate the planting strip adjacent to the building. Bar comment number 6. Can you provide information on the longevity of fibrous cement? While no product lasts forever, fibrous cement siding maintained well can last up to 50 years. It does come with a 30-year warranty. Bar comment number 7. Can you provide information on the exterior paint finishes? The proposed paint by Sherwin-Williams will be on a 7 to 10 year painting schedule. Bar comment number 8. Why should Bar approve vinyl windows? We brought a sample of the vinyl window. These are high-performance, custom-built, and commercial-grade windows. We can pass them if they want. And as this rendering shows, this is how the palette will come together: the windows, the fiber cement, and the brick base. And these are all in order to create a more defined streetscape, included with the landscaping and the pocket park that we're creating behind the IPPs.
Next slide.
That was my screen. This view is up 7th Street, and it gives you a vision of how saving these cottages and bringing them into a more defined streetscape with the landscape and the human scale spaces, which are the existing porches, will enrich the pedestrian experience as they walk along 7th Street.
Next slide. We just wanted to include a few important photographs just showing how there are real-life situations where larger buildings surrounded by lower buildings all together contribute to a compatible, appealing streetscape. Next slide. We're almost done.
So this is we are almost done. So this is similarly to that previous slide, a 5-story building, 1115 Wortland, that was initially criticised as being out of scale, oversized, and would overwhelm the historic houses on Wortland. And as some of you may realise, that never happened.
Next slide. And then this is, of course, Court Square, 10 stories, but surrounded by much lower buildings in downtown Charlottesville, appealing to many people as a walkable, appropriate streetscape. Last slide.
Two more points here next, so if we can go back.
Oh, yeah, can you go back?
Yeah, so
Sorry.
neighbourhoods have always evolved, and in reality, they must evolve to meet contemporary needs. Neighbourhoods like Fifeville are not static, they evolve, they continually change over time. Older homes are renovated, additions are built, and uses shift. Introducing buildings like the Mark is a continuation of this natural evolution, not a disruption of it.
And then just two more slides back. And I just wanted to add that there are many regions, areas in this region where there are a diverse type of building altogether that make a resilient neighborhood together. And that's what we're looking to create here. And that's the end of our presentation. We're happy to take questions from the board.
All right, thank you, guys, appreciate it. I think we're going to start with our questions and comments from the public. Kate or Jeff, when y'all want to hand me the old reading glasses.
Can you try to find? No, I think I did that too. Yeah, I know what you mean. See if I can find it.
So they're working on sign-up sheets. If anybody would like to speak who hasn't signed up, please feel free to come forward and sign up.
Were those separate sign-up sheets or different projects? Because I just worry that people may have that.
I don't believe so.
Original ones.
Yeah. All right. We'll let these three folks sign up so that then everybody can have their attention. I can't find it. Somebody else could find it. That would be great. I know. All right.
I would suggest, that I don't know, Kate, are there people online?
Oh, yeah. Do we have
just
anybody online
alternate
that wants to
and,
speak? Here you go. All right, we'll start with Jeff Barrett, please. And if you could, just come to the microphone, state your address, and then we'll have about 2 minutes, so go ahead.
Hi, my name is Jeff Barrett. I live at 805 Knoll Street. Sorry, I'm a little unprepared for this first up.
That's okay.
I would like the board to consider the fact, not to consider the project's effect on the neighborhood, not just the IPPs. The Fifeville is a really unique historical neighborhood, and this project is not on the edge of Fifeville, it is actually in Fifeville. I think that's all I had to say. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Jeff, appreciate that.
We have James Carr online.
Sure, what was the name?
James Carr, C-A-R-R.
Okay.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. We live in 715 1A Walker Square, which is directly across from the two IPPs. Our concern is twofold. One, the entire sky in front of where we live will be blocked out by this building, and all the trees that are there currently will be blocked out. And as the gentleman before me just mentioned, the whole historic nature of Fifeville, this is right in Fifeville, will be changed by this building. The second thing is the traffic, and I realize that's not within your purview as the bar, but it's something that I haven't seen any consideration of as far as where the traffic is going to go with the train tracks and the congestion we already have there. I think it's obvious that I'm concerned about what's directly in front of us, and that's selfish to some extent, but I'm also concerned about the effect this has on the entire community. Charlottesville has a history of not doing right by historically black communities. Walker Square, where we live, is probably not something that would have been welcomed in Fifeville if there had been a chance to fight it. I'd just like to see the bar consider the overall impact, and contrary to what was stated earlier, this is right smack in the middle of Fifeville, overshadowing other historic buildings that have been lovingly cared for and lived in by people that are probably sitting in that room right now. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Carr. Marlena Simon.
Hi, I'm Marlena Simon. I live at 599 Dice Street, which is kind of basically right across from this building on Delavan Street. And I have a few questions and a few comments. My first question actually came from listening to the previous discussion you were having about Brown's Lock, and just wondering if this property gets an archaeological review as well. Is that true? Do you know? Or I guess I only have
We
2
could
minutes, so
potentially.
you can answer my question after.
Yeah. I'm going to record any questions that come up, and we'll
Okay.
circle back to give you all time. Yep.
Because I'm sure it was part of the train depot, it would probably have a lot of value in that sense. Secondly, I was here at the previous meeting when some of those previous concerns came up, and I just wonder how accurate those representations truly are. The facade of the building, I think a lot of us spoke to the fact that it felt, I think you even said, looked just like the buildings at Stonefield. It didn't have that much of that brick representation. The pictures that they showed of the Court Square building and Altamont Circle, those are historic brick buildings that don't look like they were pawned together with white pressboard. So I'm not really sure that just doing a 2-story facade of brick is going to really tie the neighborhood in very well. I do appreciate the setbacks that they have allotted to going back on the Delavan side and the 7th Street side. But again, looking at their scapes, when they show those old buildings, they have like trees and grass in front of them, and I walk in front of that every day, and the sidewalk basically meets that fence right next to where that porch is. That's a fake. Like, that's not what it's gonna look like. And so I hope all of you can please be sure that you're going to know that it seems insincere what is being portrayed, or what they're actually going to do to make that seem like it falls in place. And then lastly, I think I have the question of when this building is going on, where are all the building materials and the trucks and where's the parking, where's all that going to be? Because the gentleman is really right, like Delavan Street currently is a very tiny street. And I don't even know physically how that can work. And I know that that's the transportation and it might not be purview here, but I just when does that feasibility come into play is my question. When does even if it is feasible, how does that come into play? Thank you for your time.
Great, thank you. Anyone else online?
Online, Stephanie Lawson.
Hi, can you all hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, this is Stephanie Lawson. I'm a longtime resident of Fifeville. I've lived here since 2001, and I live at 329 7th and a half Street Southwest. I was at the last Architectural Review Board meeting and couldn't make it tonight, so I'm glad you had the Zoom, so I appreciate that. I would just like to say and state clearly my objections to this development that's going up. It doesn't fit the scale and the size of the neighborhood. I realize that there's zoning things we have to deal with that do allow this to happen, but I guess I just ask the board to consider the look of the building and what it's going to do to all the buildings around it. I know from my house, I will be able to see the building. Right now, I can actually see the steeple of the church, and that view is going to be blocked. So I just want you guys to take into consideration what this is going to do to the neighborhood. It's going to really destroy one of the entrances to Fifeville.
Okay.
That's all I have to say.
Great, thank you, Ms. Lawson. Angela Carr?
Hey, how you guys doing today?
All right.
My name's Angela Carr. I am a FAR board member, and I am a part of the community. I grew up in Garrett Square. I grew up here in Charlottesville. I got family that lives probably like in the parking lot over beside these two houses. So I'm kind of curious. I wanted to come up here and ask a few questions. I'm curious to know why that street. I'm curious to know why that street. Like, what is so special about the Fifeville area? What is so special about the Black history in the area? What is so special about that spot? Why I picked that spot? Out of all spaces here in Charlottesville, Virginia, out of all areas that really do need that building or that could utilize, you know what I mean, that size of a building, why choose that spot? I just kind of feel like every place in Charlottesville that is predominantly Black or that has history with Black literally is just being snatched up. And I feel like it's being snatched up because a lot of people that look like me are not showing up to express how we truly feel about it. I've expressed it a lot on Facebook, and I'm trying to get people to really understand, hey, you have a say-so. Hey, you have rights. Hey, you have a voice. Just show up. Just show up. And I don't think that they believe that if they show up that you guys are going to listen. So I just say, you know, I mean, I just ask if you really just take deep consideration of, like, it really does matter to the Black community. And we really do care. And it matters to more than just the Black community. It matters to the whole community, the Fifeville community. And I don't even live in the Fifeville community. I live out 29. So just like it brought me here, you know what I mean? It matters to us. And that's all I'm saying. Like, you come in with, a substantial amount of money you've put into this project, and you can, you know, shine light on what the building is like looking like, and, you know, its damages and the negative things about the building. But are you willing to help that building? Are you willing to put the money into that building? That's like, you know what I'm saying? So if you can shine bad on it, can you shine a little good on it? Because the neighborhood truly asking you to, like, consider us when you consider luxury. There are so many homeless people in this town. I feed about 100 of them every weekend, living literally under bridges, outside in tents. And we talking about spending millions of dollars on this place, on a Black neighborhood, when you got hundreds of people hungry. Even the people that live in homes are hungry. Children homeless. And we over here worried about student luxury houses. It's not really making sense to me. You know what I mean? Honestly. So I just ask that y'all consider, you know what I mean? Like, we could really be, you could really change a lot here in Charlottesville with the amount of money that you putting into this building, or the amount of thought that you guys have put into this building. Y'all could really put a lot of that money into the homeless people, being that Trump also passed the law that it's illegal for them to be homeless, which makes no sense as well. But
All right, so
you
I'm
could
gonna
help.
say thank you. That was over 2 minutes, and I appreciate your time.
I appreciate you
And-
giving me over the 2
Yep.
minutes the same way you gave him. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Sure thing. Thank you. All right. Anyone else online?
James Snyder.
Yes, thank you. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity to speak. I am live at the Oak Lawn Cottages project over on 5th Street. I'm also a retired professional planner, and I've been involved with mixed-use development for more than 40 years. The deficiencies in this project are really alarming. In the review of the comments made by the staff, there was 0 comments by the fire department. In doing research, we found that in March of 2021, the Virginia Passenger Rail Authority actually became the owner of the railroad. They were never notified, as far as we could tell, by the city of any of this rezoning. And they have many parcels that they touch, including the West Haven parcels. So I think, first of all, there's a basic lack of notice that happened that really needs to be addressed. Also, because of the size of the trains that go by this area, you can have a 225-car rail incident happening in the middle of the night. Imagine with no passageway for emergency vehicles or barrier, or crash barrier, a train going off tracks with 400 students sitting in a building right next to the tracks. That can happen within 50 years. There's been no effort to provide emergency access and protection to this building. There are just many, many deficiencies. That sidewalk on 7th Street is probably a 20% grade. There's not a single person who lives in this building who can get up that even in a wheelchair. There's no ADA access. On the Oak Grove side, because we all got rezoned to 7 stories, we now have no setbacks. So that the building, it crowds us, really it's a taking to our properties, which are part of the historic district, because of the zoning pattern the city put down. So there are just a lot of issues here. Did you know that CSX?
Okay, Mr. Snyder, I'm going to stop you there. The train is not under our purview. I appreciate your comments. A train could derail there tonight, and it would hit whatever other buildings are out there. So, thank you for...
My only point there is
calling
that
in.
that's something you should be considering, because I think it's been illegally zoned.
It's beyond the BAR's purview to consider how a train could be stopped, because there's a phrase about not being able to stop a train. All right, thank you. Paul Reeder.
Good evening. My name is Paul Reeder. I've lived at 211 5th Street Southwest for over 10 years. I'd like to take as my topic something we looked at earlier this evening, the executive summary given to you by the developers. The executive summary makes 14 points. I could spend my 3 minutes, now 2 minutes, debating each of these, as most are either economic with the truth or disingenuous. However, all 14 are irrelevant to your decision. Their arguments are more appropriate for the City Council, and perhaps we will get there in due course. Instead, I'd like to focus on the developer's threat in that summary. Despite lauding the board for its positive contributions, the developer now threatens to abandon the cottages entirely and proceed by right if you don't play ball. Don't believe it. There is simply no way Mommy and Daddy are going to walk past 2 derelict cottages and pay $1,000 a month for 1 bed for their precious students. I don't know about you, but I do not like bullies. So, if their 14 points are irrelevant and their threat is hollow, I'd rather you focus on your purview as stated in your guidelines and reminded to us all by Jeff earlier this evening. Is the proposal compatible with the historic, cultural or architectural character of the IPP that is the subject of the application? Is the proposal compatible with the historic, cultural or architectural character of the IPP that is subject of the application? And whether the material, texture, color, height, scale, mass, and placement of the proposal are visually and architecturally compatible with the site. The answer to both these questions is an emphatic no. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reeder. Are you online? Okay. John Mason, please.
Good evening. I'm John Mason. I live at 211 5th Street Southwest in Charlottesville. I want to address a couple of the things that the developer's presentation made. This development is not on the edge of Fifeville. Other people have made that point. It's in Fifeville. It's not on the edge of Fifeville. We saw a picture of the Altamont building on Altamont Circle. The Altamont building was built after the houses on Altamont Circle. The Altamont building, which I lived in for 17 years, obscures the sunlight of those buildings, those houses that are around it, depending on the time of day. And even though it was built in the early 1920s, people to this day complain about their lack of sunshine because of the Altamont building. The developers also made the point that Fifeville has a history of being a place for industrial development, and it's not a protected area. It's not a protected area precisely because it's an historically African-American neighborhood. Precisely because it's an historically African-American neighborhood. A previous speaker asked, why here? Well, because African-American neighborhoods are vulnerable. That the history of this city has made African Americans subject to housing and economic discrimination that makes us extremely vulnerable. Am I already out of time?
Probably close.
I really am. I'm going to leave you with this thought.
Sure.
I think history matters. The history of this city matters when you think of the history of Charlottesville and how Charlottesville is vulnerable to this kind of development. I served on the Blue Ribbon Commission that made recommendations to City Council about what to do with our Confederate memorials. We learned that history matters. We also learned that symbolism matters. And if this building is constructed, it will be a new symbol of white domination in the city of Charlottesville. That's it. I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mason. Frank Bechter, did I say that right?
Thank you. My name is Frank Bechter. I live in Fifeville. I'm at 304 6.5 Street Southwest, very near Dice. Let me please draw your attention to an architectural and historic survey from 1984. It's available online. It was probably read also by the developer proposal. In its architectural description, it says, this worker's cottage and the one next door. This is a worker's cottage, historically. That's what it is, a worker's cottage. Now, and I emphasize, that is in the architectural description, in this document at least. The applicants know that. To their credit, they did mention once in their proposal, which is in your minutes from August 19th, page 30. These two buildings are two very small, individually protected IPPs. They are workers' cottages, constructed in the late 19th century. Note again, they are very small, in the words of the applicant. I want to quote another page from their bar request number 1, page 34 in the August 19 minutes. When they were asking to be able to tear down some of the wooden structures that were added after the fact, they wrote of them, they don't have any redeeming architectural, historical, or community value. They would not result in a loss of historic fabric. So even if the board were to maybe wonder if it does not have purview to speak of community and historic fabric and neighborhood and things like that, the applicant thinks you do. It's mentioning it in its own proposal. Given that we were asked to speak only of external, I must read on from the minutes from the August 19 meeting, which Paul also cited the same sentence, but a proposal shall be denied if it is deemed incompatible with the historic, cultural, or architectural character of the district. Perhaps we're not a historically protected district, or the protected property. And I've just emphasized that those protected properties are just like the neighborhood today. It's a working class neighborhood. Those are workers' cottages. If we're talking about honoring workers' cottages, we're built as workers' cottages. If we want to honor them, I say we put affordable housing there, rehabilitate those houses, make them affordable, make them habitable. Last meeting, two months ago, I said that the certificate of appropriateness might be thought of, it seems to be actually a certificate of appropriation. That city block, a very large area that is ideal for affordable housing, I know that's not fully in your purview, will be appropriated, will be annexed. There's no Fifeville current resident who will have anything to do with it. I I recoil at the idea that we cannot, as a governmental structure of various departments, do something about that. I do object to the notion of rehabilitation of structures, buildings. Everywhere else in the proposal, and even by staff here, we tend to say building structures. Please keep the historical designation of them as workers' cottages in mind. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Brock Napier-Kowski.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity to speak. My name is Brock Napier-Kowski. I live at 614 Dice Street at the end of 7th, at the bottom of the hill. That home was refurbished in 2008 by Mike McMahon and his father, who I think many of you probably know on this board because he's brought many projects in Fifeville before this board specifically for renovation. He also, with his father, owns some properties in Fifeville which they decided not to renovate, specifically to keep the cultural and neighborhood feeling present when, in some respect, when they found it. So as we have lived there since 2008, we've seen through Mike McMahon's experience and his development strategy, interact with the Board of Architectural Review and establish a gentrification strategy in Fifeville of slow growth. The fact that this was keyed in on the developers by saying that Fifeville is a place where growth is happening and change is happening, I think is true because it is evidenced by Mike McMahon and his father's work. But it is not part of a continuum, this particular project. It represents a discrete shift from the strategy of development which has occurred over the last 15 years. And I think that if the board approves this application today, it would mark a very distinct shift and change from the previous strategy which has been unfolding over the last 15 years. So I don't think it would be consistent with the way that the Board of Architectural Review has treated Fifeville up to this point. And it would leave me some serious questions about what the actual philosophy of the board is in preserving Fifeville, if that is a stated goal of the board. And just lastly, I would say that if the board approves this proposal and it goes to the City Council, they will have a major fight on their hands from the residents. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Dorinda Johnson, did I say that right?
Good evening. I've been a resident of Fifeville for 56 years. It's nothing I haven't seen. And I'm worried and I'm concerned. First, I'm concerned that it's an all-white architectural review board here. And that I'm sick and tired of all-white boards making decisions on things that are going to impact predominantly black neighborhoods. You don't live there, you don't know nothing about it. You're going by what you read, you have to live there. That is going to affect that neighborhood in a major way. It's already been subjected to gentrification. $300,000 home sold and then resold for $700,000. Who did that affect? People that look like me. And we are tired. I know I'm tired. I'm very tired. You should not approve this. It would be horrible because it's definitely going to affect the people that look like me. It's wrong. It's terribly wrong. And for them to come in here with these lies and with this mess that you're talking that is not true, you should be ashamed of yourselves. Stop coming into our neighborhoods, taking advantage of people that look like me and bringing in luxury apartments for rich white people, because that's who it's for. Those rich white students at UVA and their rich parents. So be perfectly honest, who is that going to be beneficial to? Who will it be beneficial to? It's not going to be beneficial for me because If I had a child going to UVA, they wouldn't be able to afford to live there. So who is it going to be beneficial for? Enough. Think about it, and think about it hard and strong. And then try to do something to correct appointing more a diverse architectural review board. We got a civil council member here.
Yeah, thank you. Wendy Gow.
Hi, Wendy Gao. I'm a community organizer at FAR. I first just wanted to ask everyone who's here this evening to support Fifeville and its Black history to please stand up. Thank you. I just wanted you all to feel the community presence in this space and everybody who showed out tonight to defend this community and its history. Okay, y'all can sit down. I have a question for the developers that they can answer later. Specifically because they said in their presentation that their project won't displace homeowners. I'm not sure that that's true, as many have already voiced, because of the violent process of dispossession called gentrification, which the standard is already perpetuating in 10th and Page, also thanks to these same developers. The BAR has been given an impossible task of considering the design plan for these two cottages without considering anything else. But you cannot divorce architecture or design from history. Buildings exist in space, and spaces and places are shaped by the social political context in which they arise and that they exist in. When you're considering these two IPPs built by James Hawkins, you can't ignore the fact that after he built them, he sold them to local working class Black families. You also can't ignore that those Black families and others lived in Fifeville because Fifeville was a former slave plantation named after the Fife family. I just want everyone to sit with that. The land that this building will be built on was a former plantation that enslaved human beings as chattel slavery. That is the history and the immense violence that this city is grappling with and that you all are reckoning with, whether council intended you all to or not. But insofar as they have asked you to consider design and architecture, you cannot consider architecture without considering the history. And the history of these two IPPs and this Black community and the Black families who owned homes and lived in them are shaped by the legacy of slavery and white supremacy, and you all have an obligation to repair historical injustice and deny this building from being built.
Right. Shanti Levy? Am I reading that right? Sorry, I don't know if I'm reading the handwriting.
I'm Shanti Levy. I
Oh,
live
Levy.
at 708 Knoll Street. And really appreciate all the comments and share a lot of the feelings that have been expressed. I want to focus on a few particular things because it's emphasized a lot how limited your purview is, and I think in particular I'd like to speak about scale. I think it's 205 7th Street, which is the northern IPP. It's 0.09 acres. Most of our lots in Fifeville are less than an acre, or 0.09 to 0.14 acres, and so when you see that and how tiny it looks relative to the massing, it is a perfect diagram and representation of how disjunctured this proposal is with the rest of our neighborhood. And I also just want to say, when I see the plan, which shows that the place where the massing isn't, the place where they can't be making money from the actual rental units, is the luxury amenity of a pool and spa and terrace area rather than landscape space that we might be able to access as a public. And so instead of what is currently a forest, they're removing 45 large trees, many more smaller trees, and proposing to replace them with large trees that absolutely cannot fit in the space that they're showing them to. So there's a 10% canopy requirement that they're showing that they will meet by including canopy counts that are way too large for the space that would actually fit in that area. So when the only two examples that we have in central Charlottesville that include an entire city block that you can't penetrate as a pedestrian are the Standard and the Flats. And those are not the precedents that we want to continue as we're developing the city. The examples that the architects showed in their August presentation about protected IPPs that are surrounded by larger projects, when you look at those, all of their precedents were at least half the size of the lot that this project does. And the protected buildings were all about double the size. So the scale disruption is so much more extreme in this instance. And I would say that those have mixed success. And the one that I think is probably the most successful is the Doyle, because it does provide that space that anybody can walk through and move through as part of a city fabric. And I think we have an interesting moment here where we have these whole blocks that can be purchased and developed at a single time by a single developer. And it makes the fabric of our city locked into a particular market moment and a particular time and set of economic forces that are for right now. So that will all decay, and we will be left with old luxury student housing in our neighborhood.
Thank you. All right, Lakshmi Fjord? Lakshmi Fjord, sorry. Deciphering handwriting.
Lakshmi Fjord.
Okay, thank you.
I live at 709 Knoll Street, which is the corner of Knoll and 7.5. I'm 2 blocks from this proposed plan. And yes, I will be able to see it. I have a rise. We'll be able to see this. It was a very studied photo that was used that left out actually the closer houses and so forth. So yes, I'm impacted, but I'm far more concerned about the historic issues and the cultural issues and the site appropriateness. And I love what Shanti had to say, and very proud of what Shanti had to say, because we have to think not just of this moment. We have to think about going forward, and once this is built, a design that actually was for another part of the city that has many, many, many lanes of traffic, but instead we have single lane traffic on the streets that would be the through cuts to this. So 7.5 is one of them, and the others that come in and out. We all know that Fifel has 1 lane, one-way streets. How is this appropriate? The building itself is far too large and impenetrable. It is not going to be anything but a silo of people who are in the same age grouping. It's too tall, it's too wide, it's too dense. And then once those cars, because once they live off campus, they can each have their own car. Once those cars, which is that 600, they're saying the population could be, that where are all those cars going to go? Even though that isn't part of your purview, the historic district is the streets. The streets are part of the historic district. They cannot be separated out. And so to put a building that perhaps is appropriate at Stonefield, I don't know. I don't live there. But it is not appropriate to do a one-size-fits-all design with a few alterations in a historic place with 1-lane roads that will not be able to support it, and the people living there will have no intention or part of their life to interact with the rest of the community. They will just go off to school and come back and then maybe bring friends, and then we'll have more cars and we'll have more sense of this closed off structure. So my request is that you, and I appreciate so much of what everyone said, so now I'm blathering, but I would really ask you to deny the COA. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, and Mr. Payne?
Good to see you all, Michael Payne. I just wanted to remark on bigger picture elephant in the room, which is that City Council made a mistake in allowing 7 to 11 stories of student housing by right in areas throughout Fifeville, 10th and Page, and Rose Hill. And removed special use permits and full Board of Architectural Review authority to review these projects. I think everyone on the BAR tonight recognizes the absurdity of the fact that the concerns that we're hearing from Fifeville residents are about, can they afford to stay in their homes? Can they afford rent? Do their children have a future in Fifeville? Will their children want to have a future in Charlottesville if the only businesses are of, by, and for UVA students? And the only meeting in which people can talk about those concerns is your meeting tonight about 2 individually protected properties where you're discussing textures and building materials. That's not your fault, that's City Council's fault. But that's the core issue. And this is going to happen, very similar thing is going to happen with the LV Collective project. And it's true, we don't want special use permits everywhere that stop all change, but there are areas where it's the right thing to do because it's the only way communities can have a voice and could get community benefits agreements to have the city be more ambitious in what we want to see happen in terms of community development, to create businesses that people in the neighborhood actually want to go to, that offer community wealth building opportunities. And our zoning doesn't reflect that. And that's something I hope City Council can understand the impact of the mistake we made and correct it, because regardless of what everyone's intentions are, the way city government is treating Charlottesville's Black community and Charlottesville's working class community is not right. It's simply not right. And I'll just end by saying I know at this meeting there's a very specific thing in front of you. I do think, as I read the guidelines, there is the authority to deny it. Whatever decision you make, it will surely be appealed to City Council, and I do think City Council will look at whatever decision you make. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Payne. All right. Anyone else? All right. Thank you very much, everybody, for your comments. Our meetings are recorded, so we have these on video, so we can look at them, City Council can look at them, et cetera. I think all of us took notes. And so now I think it is time for questions and comments from the Board of Architectural Review. You feel like going first, or I'll call on people?
I will offer.
Mr. Werner, you'd like to comment? Go
Well,
ahead.
no, I don't want to comment, but I want to offer, so I don't leave this out. I did receive several emails. And I'll just quickly, I know that you all they were circulated to you all as well. I just want to, there's a lot in here about traffic and things that are not yours, but I'll just, I highlight so that it's in the record, the comments. Mr. Aguero noted the architecture, that the scale and the massing of the proposed development are out of line with the IPPs.
Jeff, could you repeat the name louder? I don't think
I'm sorry.
many of
Lindsay
us heard it.
Aguero.
Lindsay Aguero.
Yeah, I believe that, and I've communicated with them a lot over the course of this. They live just south of Delavan on 7th Street. The minimizing Charlottesville's history as represented by the Hawkins cottages and placing them in the shadow of a towering development, not only massive in height but in depth. It absolutely dwarfs the cottages, the streets, the entire neighborhood. I want to see development that genuinely respects these cottages and this neighborhood. You should apply the highest standards to protect Charlottesville's historic resources. The Tracy Love commented, and relative to your purview again, a 7-story building would dwarf surrounding homes on Delavan, 7th and 5th Street, 5th Street West. Please vote to deny this project, or at a minimum require substantial reduction in scale and a development approach that prioritizes historic preservation. Joey Conover sent a note earlier relative to you all. The exterior should be respectful of the surrounding buildings. The new buildings should be relatively in scale with the neighboring area. And finally, Elizabeth Meisel on 7.5 Street noted As you know, the two buildings at 204 and 208 7th Street Southwest are IPPs. The scope of this project does not complement relative to size or honor the historic nature of these two buildings, nor does it complement or honor the culture and history of Fikeville. So those were the, I think, specific comments that fall under the design purview. Certainly, those can go in the record. And now you all can proceed with your questions and comments.
Thank you for relaying those letters that got sent in. Appreciate it. All right. Who wants to start?
I think I have an easy one for the developers if anybody wants to respond.
Oh, yeah, actually,
Sorry.
no, that's okay.
Do you want to go first?
Well, actually, I wanted to maybe start with a few of the questions that came from the public that are within our purview. So one, and it's not necessarily for the developer, but maybe for Jeff, can we require an archaeological review before construction begins?
The phase one, certainly you can. The applicant can. There have been differing opinions on that, but I come down on if an applicant sees as an unacceptable condition.
They can appeal it. Okay.
Or comment tonight why they shouldn't be have to. But I don't know how to answer the question relative to, I mean, we know what was going on in the tower site, I call it, it was like Charlottesville Ice Company, and it was a railroad repair yard. Everything there was associated. I wouldn't be surprised if the folks that lived in these brick houses, that's where they work. But that parcel's not, I couldn't answer. I mean, we're talking about the two IPPs. 202, which is that larger parcel, is not one of the IPPs.
So that requirement could only be limited to the IPPs?
I'm not saying yes or no, I'm saying I don't know.
Okay, fair enough. It was a good question. Thank you. And then the laydown area question, I think, is a little bit means and methods, though it's a decent one. I would assume it would have to be on the property. You know, they wouldn't be able to set up
I
somewhere
don't know
else.
if Matt Alfley is still here, or Missy are still here, but that's all part of when something does get constructed, that's outside of my lane. Yeah, they can address how that's handled.
Yeah. But I would assume it would have to be on the property, or they'd rent up adjoining property or something. But I don't know, Missy, did you understand the question? The question was basically if this were approved and moved to construction, where would the laydown area be? Or is there a process?
Yeah, as part of the site plan process, they'll have to provide that, and it'll have to be acceptable.
Okay. Thank you.
Can I ask a follow-up question? Would any part of the streets be used for that? I only ask because just downtown here, a block away from here, 8th Street, one lane of it was closed for about a year for private construction. And it was really actually, you know, we don't have one lane streets. We have basically maybe 2 lanes with a parking lane, or actually 8th Street is one way at that point. But it was really disruptive to that block downtown, especially as busy as High Street gets. So would the city allow the developer to take up any part of the street during construction? I mean, I think that would definitely impact the neighborhood. I know it's out of our purview, but I'm just curious.
If a request was made, it'd be evaluated by the traffic engineer.
Thank you.
So follow up to that, I guess there's been a lot of questions about traffic, and that isn't within our purview, but is there a place where traffic gets reviewed for a project like this?
Can you say that louder? I'm so sorry.
Sorry. The question was basically, is there it's not under our purview, but at the city level, is there a traffic study or review that does get completed when a large project like this comes through?
There's a review that'll be required, and that's one of a few of the comments that are included in the document that you all have seen.
That's right, yeah. Thank you very much. So, yes is the answer. It gets reviewed by the city. All right, those are the ones I wanted to address, so go ahead, thank you.
So, not, maybe it's just kind of refocusing, but on page 3 of the first part of your submission, the executive summary, you said that there are 3 purposes of this submission. To get our permission to demolish the non-contributing additions and back of the IPPs, sure. And then to get our permission to allow construction on those same parcels. And I would say, yeah. And then isn't the third purpose to get our permission to rehabilitate and renovate the IPPs as well? I mean, I'm not, I mean, I think you've presented materials for that. I just thought it was interesting that you didn't include that as a third purpose, because it really is why we're here.
Well, I thought, Sherry, that was included in the original.
Allow construction on,
Yeah.
okay.
Yes, but absolutely.
Got it.
And just to, there might have been a misconception on someone's part. We are very much interested in fully rehabilitating these 2 houses. They are very important. We're not just going to let them slide. And they are being rehabilitated, which means the purpose is for adaptive reuse. So it won't be used as single-family houses, but it will be used in an active way. It will be, there will be alterations so that it can be more accessible, and it can be used for a contemporary important use, and we don't have that spelled out. But there will be enough changes to allow that to happen. And certainly, as we mentioned very quickly, they are under progressive failure, which means if nothing happens soon, things will start to collapse beyond rehabilitation.
And just by way of information for the public who may not have made it through the 221 pages of this application online, the applicant did submit, I'm guessing, about 8 or 10 pages of pretty detailed description of their plans for rehabilitation with a lot of notations about materials.
Yeah, I mean, we're very serious about doing it well, not just.
Okay, thank you. That was a softball, but I figured I would just point it out, because it's why we're here, like I said.
Sherry, it would be helpful to emphasize, folks, too, that the word rehabilitation that's a precise term used in preservation world. So it's not preservation, it's not restoration, it's not recreation, it's adapting a building or adapting a structure to a use that it can be.
So I probably
continue to use.
misspoke, because this isn't pure rehabilitation. You're not rehabilitating it for single-family use. It's really a renovation as well.
Well, no,
I mean, the technical term.
I think Jeff's point,
Okay. I thought Jeff was correcting me.
Oh, no, I wanted to
Okay.
make sure people, we were using the term rehabilitation, and I
Well, I
figured
thought I
folks
was
might
using
be
too
wondering.
strict a term, because that's not, I mean, they're not returning it.
I'll get to it.
Yeah, it's a,
Okay,
yeah.
he
make sure-
knows. This is the dude. He would know,
Well,
not me.
they've thankfully, they did spell it out for us in their application. I just need to get to the slide there are a lot of slides. So basically, the Secretary of the Interior's standards for historic preservation are kind of a upper echelon guideline to our own, right? There it is, thanks. And just for educational purposes.
That's a beginning page.
Come on.
What page are you on?
It's on slide 211. It's, and these aren't where, yeah, so it's preservation, rehabilitation, restoration, and reconstruction. Those are the 4 categories under the Historic Preservation Act.
Okay.
So rehabilitation is the process of returning a property to a state of utility through repair, alterations, or additions, which makes possible the efficient contemporary use while preserving those portions and features of the property which are significant to its historic, architectural, and cultural value. Sorry.
They can hear you, apparently.
Do I need to read that louder?
You're mumbling more than Jeff.
Sorry, I was trying to rush through it.
Not possible.
Y'all want me to read that again?
Sure, yeah.
I just wanted people to understand why we were using the term rehabilitation.
Right, rehabilitation means they're pumping some life into the building, they're gonna stabilize the structure, they're going to fix it, but it doesn't mean that it's going to be a single-family home again.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. you like to go?
Sure. Thank you, everybody, for speaking up. I think it means a lot here to us, for you to speak and let us hear your concerns, also for the developers and the architects. I think one thing that is on our purview is materiality, scale, massing of a building. And I do believe that this is out of character. It's not appropriate. This is not an appropriate architectural response to these IPPs. And also the, I'm just going to leave it there for now.
Okay.
But you can come back to me later.
That's all right. I guess one thing I've been concerned about is that this is an opportunity to save these IPPs. They are in really a bad state. They're the reason we're reviewing this application is because of those individually protected properties. We've had large projects like this come before us where individually protected properties have been demolished against the BAR's recommendation, and they weren't in such a bad state, right? They were actually perfectly good homes that people could live in, and then they were allowed to be torn down. So I do see this, one, silver lining, if you will, is that it would save these houses that are culturally significant. And I worry that if something isn't done, they will be lost forever. So that's one good thing about it. But I do tend to agree that the scale and massing is not compatible with the IPPs. So it's tough. Roger?
Yeah, I'll try. There's been a lot of talk about purview, so I'm going to stick to what our design guidelines. Chapter 3, new additions, exterior alterations, or related new construction shall not destroy historic materials. So I think you could make an argument that they're actually not destroying. In fact, they're rehabilitating. The new work shall be differentiated from the old. They've done that. But here's the kicker. And shall be compatible with the massing, size, scale, and architectural features to protect the historic integrity of the property and its environment. So that's where I get hung up. I mean, they've made great strides, actually, compared to the first things that we saw. But they're small steps, and I think in general, this just doesn't, it just really isn't, it is not compatible massing, size, and scale-wise. Reducing just one story is not enough to satisfy that paragraph in our design guidelines.
I think what we've come up against is those guidelines are in contradiction to zoning. And I don't know how we can resolve that here at all. And I think that's the real problem. If the citizens of the city do not want that zoning, we're the wrong people to talk to about that. The city council is the people you should talk to about that. And I don't know how we're going to resolve this, given these guidelines. I am very well aware of the fact that those buildings are individually protected, and nobody is going to save them at the moment. And these gentlemen are prepared to do something about that. And I want to make sure that we also consider that as part of our consideration when we're thinking about this project. Those buildings will not be preserved otherwise. They're not going to be workers' housing ever again.
No.
So.
No, that's not true.
Well, then we'll disagree.
You can't predict the future.
Right.
They could be. If one wanted that, if a developer wanted that, they could be.
Building in that neighborhood. Because you want to say 2 buildings.
I'll go next.
Okay, go ahead, Dave.
Well, I hope you all maybe get a sense that nobody up here probably wants to be up here right now. And I think there's a reason for that. And already numerous people, every one of my colleagues has touched on that. I'm going to go back and read, because as we started to talk, I started to think about something that I wrote everybody after our previous meeting. I'm just going to read that because I feel like it sums up pretty well how I feel about it, as far as the struggles that we're feeling as part of this board, as volunteers, as people that all are concerned about our city and the cultural legacy. I mean, nobody up here is against the cultural legacy or against, we all have an interest in the historic propriety of Charlottesville, and we know it's a special place, and that's part of the reason why we're here. But we're struggling, and I think that, let me just start by saying that I'm going to suggest that the struggles that we're feeling right now of our response is more due to the fact that this submission, like a few others over the past year, is an anomaly. As far as other submissions that we've seen prior to the new zoning. We're all aware that we have a problem on our hands. Our guidelines are in some ways, in many ways, out of line with the new zoning. Many of the hard decisions we've made in the past year are a direct result of this friction. In this case, I personally am really struggling in determining how this project is appropriate, given its massing is so out of scale with one of the more historic neighborhoods in the city. And we don't have many. We don't have a big city. In turn, I found it difficult to provide clear direction on what is appropriate per the guidelines, given the misalignment that we're seeing. Then I went on to say that we can talk all we want about how appropriate a fence is, and personally, I enjoy talking about that as part of this board and ways that we can contribute to making our city better. But you can't overlook the difference between a fence and the massive impact this project will have on our surroundings. This is a huge project, and I think it is precedent-setting. And so I think we have to assume that these conversations are not going to be easy. They also are highlighting perhaps some areas of the new zoning that may need another look, per Mr. Payne's comment. The public opinion I was hearing that night, in October, led me to believe that the new zoning may need some amendments, and for an example, in this case, perhaps overlays for these sensitive historic areas like Fifeville. I'm a strong proponent of adding density to our city. I'm in some ways a proponent of our new zoning, but I'd also hope that our zoning works in concert with our VAR guidelines and the historic legacy that we're trying to promote here. And let me just say that, I don't think it's fair to vilify the developers. They're and architect. They actually have done a really great job in coming to us and responding in spades to our comments. I think, it's not fair to, like I say, vilify them in this case. And I think there have been some rather strong comments. They're simply doing their job, and they're responding to the zoning that is by right now. And so I want you to think about that, and that, if you want to address this, you have to address this in appropriate avenues. And I think the last meeting that we had in October, I think a lot of people that attended were educated in that regard. So I just want to finish by saying that as part of the, one of the members of this board, I'm really very deeply interested in promoting the legacy of the BAR. I think it's an important public forum. I think it's an important way for everybody to let their voices be heard. But I want to find a way to cultivate the sort of
historic fabric and the historic legacy, that we're here to maintain.
Larry, any thoughts?
I want to thank Councilor Payne for his opening comments about recognizing part of the problems of the zoning and the purview of the bar. I think these need to be addressed by City Council. And I want to thank all the people who have shown up here. And I would like this project to go to City Council so that you can say what you have said here and talk to them directly and have this done in an appropriate form. We are so limited, and there's so many things that you have talked about that are beyond our purview that need to be discussed publicly, and it will need to be resolved politically at City Council. And again, thank to each of you for taking your time and your thoughts for coming here.
So I wanted to thank every member of the public who's commented, not just this meeting, but also in October and certainly in August. I think we had a large turnout then too. And like I did before, I've taken notes and really have, this is just to, as David said, none of us want to be up here making this decision. It's, and we're not a political body. None of us ran for election. We're not paid to do this. And the issues before us, this is a political decision in some way, which is not fair to the applicant because they applied under a zoning ordinance that was duly passed by our city council. There were objections to it, but it went through. There was a lot of public input. Before that, I've said, I've taken responsibility for this being passed, but a lot of other people might want to take responsibility too. A lot of us just kind of checked out, and it was a train that we couldn't catch. But the applicant has applied as they're entitled to. They have been very responsive to our comments. They do want to take care of these IPPs, and I think this is not the perfect future for them, but a very good future to make sure that those buildings don't continue to fall down. It's obvious that they haven't been lived in for a long time. If the owners could find a new owner or had the resources to rehabilitate them, it would have been done by now, with prices as they are in the city. But that just hasn't happened. So I do have to thank the developer for their plan in rehabbing those two properties. We're just in a really bad place. I'll say this publicly, 3 of us reapplied for our positions, and council has not voted whether they're going to reappoint us or not. I wonder publicly whether the vote tonight, whether our vote is hinged either one way or the other on a reappointment. I applied in September to be reappointed to this position, and 2 other of my colleagues have as well. We have a 4th vacancy. If they don't reappoint the 3 of us, we've got 4 vacancies in this on this BAR. And in the meantime, because of the zoning ordinance, we're having to make a decision that's very political, that we're not set up to do. This is not our expertise. So nobody, a lot of people are, you guys have got more comfortable things to do during the holidays, whether you celebrate Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, or Christmas, they're all coming up to be sitting in this room at 8:40 at night. So we're all in an uncomfortable position. The words of Ms. Levy really stuck with me, that this would be a scale disruption for the neighborhood. And I don't want to say that, I want to say our guidelines do need to be updated, and maybe they need to be a little bit more compatible with the zoning ordinance. We can find places where certainly density and growth can happen, and we're comfortable with it. But this is just a radical disruption in this neighborhood. And I don't think even if we had updated the guidelines, and it really is council's duty to update the guidelines. It's not our job. It's their legislative action, their guidelines, their approval. If we had done it before now and we had these great new guidelines, I'm not sure this decision is found any differently than it would be tonight. We would still have a neighborhood like it is, with a historic fabric that is Spiceville, that, with the same people in this room saying the same thing. And I mean, that's, I'm not sure, our guidelines are not old and creaky. They need to be updated, but the fact is that our city is what the city is. This neighborhood is what the neighborhood is. And this just simply doesn't belong in the neighborhood because of its scale and massing and its impact on the neighborhood. And so I don't think I can support a COA here. I really, really thank the applicant. We've been put in this horrible place. It's no one in particular's fault. Like I said, a couple of meetings ago, it's also my fault. We'll shoulder some blame. But I can't support this evening.
Okay.
I just wanted to make a small comment, which is piggybacking off of Mr. Mason's comment about the kind of symbolism. And our guidelines don't talk about symbolism, but architecture is inherently symbolic. Everything we do is symbolic. The massing, the materiality, the scale, and I strongly believe that those architectural moves in this project are symbolically all wrong.
I want to give the applicant a chance to respond to any comments or questions that we have, if you'd like to. That's part of our...
Yeah, I have further comments.
Okay, well, that's fine. Maybe at this point, and then if there's further comments, we can...
Hey, guys.
Hello.
Hamilton Reynolds, Landmark Properties. Appreciate all your time today, everyone's comments tonight. Have heard them all. I think it sounds like most of you have already made up your mind, but I do want to just reiterate what Mr. Zimmer and Mr. Timmerman said regarding the rehabilitation. I mean, like we said, these houses are crumbling right now, and it's a pretty significant undertaking to rehabilitate them. And in order to do that, I mean, unless someone has, a couple $1 million they want to spend on this, you need an economic driver behind that. So I know that no one wants to talk about the economics of this, but that's just kind of what it takes to rehabilitate something like this. So again, I thank you all for your time. All of you understand your position.
Yeah, and I'll just add to what Hamilton said. So when he says that number, it's not just the cost of the rehabilitation. The land cost is in there, that people aren't giving you those properties free of charge. So the total cost is significant. I agree. I appreciate all the comments. They were very helpful. Some of them, obviously, we disagree with. And I'm glad Mr. Payne is here, because we do want to sort of touch on, being we hit on an economic component, that this, and somebody mentioned about the putting affordable units here. This project is contributing $4 million to the city, and then another $1 million in increased tax revenue. So first year alone, we're going to have an extra $5 million this year. So I don't think we should take that for granted. That's a significant amount of money that goes to the city coffers to spend. I'm not quite sure how to explain this convincingly without images, but many projects, I know Sherry's seen these over the years, there's been this same outcry about projects being too big for the neighbourhood. You may recall the Monster Garage issue, where all of the folks in the Lewis Mountain neighbourhood came out with signs, and they were just complaining about it's going to ruin the neighbourhood, all that traffic's going to go through. This is a 1,200 vehicle garage that UVA built. Didn't happen. It just was not an issue. And there are probably dozens more examples of that, where the neighbourhood, rightfully so, is absolutely concerned but they're projecting an image of a project and the result of a project that more often than not does not happen, it doesn't eventuate. So there's this, I don't want to use the wrong word here, but this sense that this project is going to just have incredibly detrimental effects on the city, and we don't believe it will. And when we talk about the neighbourhood, we understand Fifield. We just worked on a big project there for the university, the old Fifield mansion. We want it to work for the neighbourhood. We're not looking to put a project in Fifield on the edge. If somebody's looked at a map, by the way, of Fifield, I don't know how you could argue it's not in Fifield. It's in the centre of Fifield, but that's another point. We want it to work. It's no good if this project just works for us. We want it to work for Fifield. You're smiling and laughing, and we're serious about it. It doesn't work for us. We work in this neighbourhood, in this city, and we have for decades. And we don't want to be thought of as putting inappropriate buildings. So I think the almost hysteria about the negative impacts about this building, I think, are a little overblown. And there are plenty of examples where that has been the case in the past. So I just want to finish, I think, on that. I think there are plenty of other comments that we could challenge, but I think what I would like to know, if that's possible, is a sort of straw poll. We know a few people have been against it right from the beginning, and we understand that. But we would like to know, if we were asking you, what do we need to do to make it more acceptable? Can you tell us? Is that taking a floor off, taking 2 floors off, cutting the building in half? We need some sort of, again, we've been working on this for a year. You've been helping us, and we appreciate that support for the last, 6 or 8 months. So what would we need to do to get your support? I think it's a reasonable question. We need to understand what we need to do if we go back to the drawing board. And we're certainly not going to make everybody happy, I know that, but we're going to continue to try.
I think that's a reasonable question. It seems to me like just hearing my colleagues speak that they're kind of the biggest hang-up is the size and scale of the building. I think you've done a lot positive to break down the massing. I like the brick kind of lower level. Sorry, I'm so sorry. I like the brick lower level. I like the materiality of the brick because it obviously complements the 2 IPPs and it's within their scale. I think that overall, it's probably the height is the biggest issue. I don't know if there's a magic number of acceptable stories. I don't know if it helps to make it a broken up building instead of one giant building. I think to your point about it kind of taking up a whole block, that did resonate with me in comparison to some of the other properties on West Main that sort of put these huge chunks in. And I do think that you raised a good point of concern, Ms. Levy, that we could end up with these just monster blocks that nobody can cut through or walk through or engage with. As some, you're working for the owner, and so I think that, John, that's a valid question of, if you're still going to try and work with this, how can you be successful? I think making things smaller and affordable to people in the neighborhood as well might be another way to gain some positivity. But I don't know if cutting the building in half makes sense, or 3 stories, or I don't know. Turn to my architect friends also on that front.
Mr. Schwartz had an email that might be appropriate to read at this point.
There you go. Thanks. So yes, our colleague Carl Schwartz had a medical procedure today, so he's unable to join us, but he did send us an email. It's not, I don't know if it got printed on. So, I've lost the second page, that's the problem. Thanks. Yeah, I do. Let me start with Carl says, I do not believe the reduction in massing will materially affect how big this building feels, but I do believe large trees will. At the most recent zoning work session between the PC, Planning Commission, and staff in November, I was assured that when the required streetscape elements do not fit, staff will allow an adjustment in the build-to zone, moving the minimum setback further from the street. We should not allow developers to tell us that they cannot put the trees where we want them because there isn't enough room. Leave that part out. Let's see, they just don't want, no, that's not the part. They just don't want to shrink the footprint of their building. So, I mean, I think he's implying that shrinking the footprint, increasing setbacks.
More area for tree planting.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the crucial part of decreasing the footprint, is that you could actually have trees.
Larger street trees. I don't know. Others on, thoughts on John's question, if y'all want to?
At the previous meeting, you had said that if we required you to get rid of one story, it would become economically unfeasible. And yet you came back getting rid of a lot of one story. And so it seems difficult for us to say to go smaller and make it economically feasible for your developer.
Yeah, I'm not sure I fully understood all of that, Jerry, but let me explain. So, yes, initially at the first meeting, you asked us to step it back and put the height at the back of the building. We did that. And we're not removing entire floors, we're moving partial areas of the building and moving it around. We are losing many units, but an entire floor would make it unfeasible. And the thinking was that if you don't see the massing, it's not an issue. So if we moved it out of sight, it's the equivalent, the perception is that it's not there. So we moved it towards the back of the site. So am I answering your question? So we did lose a lot of units, but we didn't take entire floors off.
Okay.
Because taking a floor off where you can't see it from the public realm is wasted, in our opinion. You know, why? No one would see it unless you're in a helicopter. So that was the idea there. Do you want us to address the tree issue? I'm not sure.
Sure.
So one of the issues, and I'll let our landscape architect speak to that, but we're required by zoning to build, there's a build to zone, we have to build within that zone. So we'd have to get some sort of an exception to move out of that zone. I think that's what Carl was suggesting. We're huge tree lovers and supporters, so I agree with Carl 100%. We want to put as many trees in as we possibly can, but they have to be obviously viable. Do you want to address it?
Yeah, you asked us at the last presentation in October to create more planting spaces for these trees on both streets, and we did. We increased the areas, minimum 6 foot, 10 foot. The trees can be planted and can thrive in these areas. You also asked for a document or a diagram that showed these. We did an enlargement. That's included in your set. I think it's second and third to last page. So those items were addressed, the species of the plants, the trees, the size. So
It looks like the trees are being planted like 3.5 feet off of the face of the building, is that right?
in some cases,
on 7th
the
Street.
trees are, as close to the sidewalk and between the spaces of the building. So yes, could be 3 to 4 feet at some point, where the trees would have to be, obviously,
Very small
they'll go
trees.
to their space, but they do fit in the area that you requested.
I'll take a crack at answering the question, and it might not be that helpful, but I think maybe it's looking at this with a totally different perspective, and do we just need to do this, or do we just need to take this level off, or do we need to put this material on? I think it's more fundamental. I think that, from what I'm getting here is that you guys are like, the community and the architect and developer are like two ships passing in the night, and you're seeing this in completely different ways. You think it's absolutely appropriate. Everybody else in the neighborhood thinks it's not appropriate. And so what I might encourage you to do is figure out why, what are the things that they might think that it's appropriate. I don't know how you do that, if there's a public forum or a neighborhood forum. Maybe it's just a personal revelation of going in trying to understand what makes Fifeville so special. There are elements that you can identify. Sometimes, it's a collective aura. Whatever that thing is, try to identify what those core issues and elements and architectural features are, and try to assimilate that into the project.
I would suggest the developer become familiar with the small cherry plan, which was a document that was created with many, many Charlottesville and Fifeville resident interviews, and it forecasted a strategy for development in Fifeville that was supported by many of the residents of that neighborhood.
We have read it multiple times.
Oh, okay.
It has an extensive wish list.
Right, so-
Well, let's see how you come up with this after reading that.
All right, let's address the,
That's Cherry Avenue.
John.
This is on the other side.
And I'm sorry, when I made those comments, I didn't know the history of what you've been through or what you haven't been through. I was just responding generically to a question of how can we make this better.
So if I could just respond, David, to your comment. You may not know this may have been the meeting that you missed, but there were a number of people that got up and said the comments that you're hearing aren't representative of everybody in Fifeville.
Right.
That was very clear. So you're hearing a very vocal, there's a lot more people in Fifeville than are showing up here. No, I'm not suggesting that's not what, don't put words in my mouth. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying there's another opinion out there that I assume you guys are balanced enough to realise that there's other folks that feel differently. And you would expect that. But I agree with many of the comments, and we agree, and we're just trying to do a good job. And you probably, on the other point you made, I think you know that we did have a community meeting. We met in Fifeville. You may not know that, but we've gone through that. So the things you're recommending, we have done.
I think the other thing that resonates with me that I think folks do need to understand, Jerry's talked to this a little bit, Ron spoke to it, is just the new zoning ordinance, and there was a map shown that was part of the application, that I think it's important for folks to understand that, like, most of the parcels that are along the south side of the railroad tracks are zoned RX5. Most of those parcels don't happen to have an individually protected property on them. So if John wanted to scooch his project a few feet, he could build this thing without coming to us. It would have to go through the regular city channels. But, I think that if there's a community effort to push back against large-scale development like this, you'll need to look at the zoning map and talk to city council and express that concern. Because the only reason this is before us tonight is because of those two little buildings. And that was a decision that was made for the planning commission. John, you intimated that was already zoned that way. I'm not sure the history there. But it is just something to keep in mind, that this sort of strip along that south side of the train track, per the zoning ordinance of the city of Charlottesville, is intended to have this sort of growth and development. And so I think that's why they're doing that.
Council meeting to express our opposition. Ever since these projects, the one here and the one on West Main Street, came to light, Wendy has been at every single one of those council meetings, and other people from FAR and other people from the community have expressed our opposition to this zoning, to the city council. So we're doing what you said.
Good.
We understand the
Okay.
awkward position that you seven are in this evening. We sympathize with you.
Appreciate that.
I agree with Sherry, if I may say so, that it turns out as a political decision. So I think, and I'm going to suggest this, that we should go ahead and decide whether to vote on this,
Yeah.
and then move it along to city council.
Yeah, so just want to thank you, Ron, and thanks, Jeff, for reminding me. We've got several choices of how and what we can vote on. So we can vote to defer this to the January 21st BAR meeting, at which point we would have to vote on it, right?
And just to throw some.
Yeah, there will be, I know it.
There might only be 5 members
The
then.
sneaky attackman and sneak it in on you here. The challenge there would be if you were unable to meet, if for whatever you didn't have quorum, then it would be count as an approval.
That's right.
So that's the risk there. It doesn't give much time for an applicant to change anything. So just to be clear.
So that's one choice. Another choice is the applicant can request a deferral to a later date, and that actually gives them more time. It wouldn't have to be just the next month later if the applicant wanted to do that.
But you all would have to.
But we need to
accept-
approve that request. We can deny the COA. I think if we do that, we need to make sure we're clear in listing the reasons for the denial. We can approve the COA as submitted, or we can approve the COA as submitted with conditions. So those are sort of the choices before us. Let me start with the applicant and see if they would like to request a deferral.
So 2 things, if I may. I would like, you, James, you gave the points or the items that you thought would be needed to gain your support. I really would be happy if I heard that generally, or just concurrence with your thoughts, just so we understand where we're going. And then once we hear that, I can tell you what we would prefer to do.
Sure. And those were, I was kind of off the cuff, I don't know if that's any sort of magic solution. I'll just say that we would certainly need to see what you came back with. But I don't know if there's...
Just 1 or 2 items each.
If anybody has any other things that they feel like that is a magic wand.
I mean,
It's been
review
s-
the options, but I think maybe a break.
Just a 5-minute breaks for the applicant to talk and for us to talk with staff. So
Okay.
just to maybe recess, I'm not trying to take over the chair, but
Okay.
until 9:06.
You're moving for a break? All right. We'll take a...
That clock's...
Okay.
8 o'clock.
Whatever, 8 o'clock.
Surprise everyone, it's only 8 o'clock.
Yeah, we've already sprung ahead.
Let's go to 8:10 if anybody needs to use the restroom. Thank you.
Thank you.
right, so it's 8:11. I'm going to call us back to order.
And then have it go.
Yeah.
I would like to have a vote tonight.
No, sorry. All right, so do we, thanks everybody for taking a quick break. I think this is, obviously everyone understands how challenging a project this is for us. I'd say the larger us, right? Like, this is a really challenging thing to struggle through. And I feel like the BAR at its root and core, at least in my opinion, is not only to help guide good architecture in the city, but there is a preservation aspect to the Board of Architectural Review. And so it's one of the things that I've been struggling the most with on this particular project, because part of our charge is to try and preserve and save these individually protected properties, right? Like, they are special for their own right. I think that the tricky part with this particular project is, like, at what cost, right? Is that trade-off of, this is a chance to save these buildings, but it requires building a very large structure behind them that I would argue is not appropriate and not compatible to those individually protected properties. Like, that's the crux of it, right? That is, like you said, a paradox almost, right? So it's really, that's what's so difficult. And I think Mr. Werner's guidance to us early on it was that we look at the IPPs through the lens of a district and the guidelines surrounding a district, and that ultimately, it's not a checklist. We don't have to, like, check every single little box one way or the other, but that it ultimately does fall into sort of, it is what it sounds like, right? It's a certificate of appropriateness, and, like, is something appropriate or not, is, I think, what it really boils down to, So, at least for me, I don't know if we're doing a straw poll or not, but, like, for me, I don't think I can support this development as appropriate to this particular site, because it's too large, the scale is too big, the massing of it takes up a whole city block. I worry that this might mean we end up losing these IPPs, and that might be the death knell of them. But just weighing the two sides of it, I think the scale and size of this thing is too big for me to support it. But I welcome what others might think. I don't think we're going to go through a round of suggestions of what might make it acceptable, because that's a whole nother design review iteration. So, but I would like to just circle back to the question I asked before we broke, and just, does the applicant want to request a deferral? No, I'm seeing no. Okay, thank you. So I don't think we want to defer it either. So we are going to vote. What do y'all, I feel like the tenor is to vote for denial, but
I'm ready
just
for,
want to-
I have a motion,
Gotcha.
if everybody's ready for it.
Okay.
Yes.
Sorry, Ms. Lewis, as we discussed, if you could, in your motion, list reasons.
Yeah.
And
Thank
then,
you.
Following that, I know I was going to summarize the appeal process, so that
After
everybody
we
knows
vote,
it.
maybe?
I can do it immediately after.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Having considered the standards set forth within the city code, including the ADC district design guidelines, I move to find that the proposed development at the 200 block of 7th Street Southwest and the corresponding rehabilitations of the brick dwellings at 204 and 207 7th Street Southwest, both designated as IPPs, do not satisfy the BAR's criteria and guidelines for being compatible within the IPP districts, and that for the following reasons, we deny the application. I'm going to refer, they're the same criteria, but I'll refer to them, I'll refer to them in our new zoning code. The chapter is 34, which has always been our zoning chapter. It's division 5.2.7, and the paragraph D has the criteria for review in our decisions that we're supposed to follow. Specifically, I would say that paragraph, it's paragraph 1A and then little 1, and little 4 are the guidelines that would augur towards denying this, and I'll read those right now. Little 1 is whether the material, texture, color, height, scale, mass, and placement of the proposed addition, modification, or construction are visually and architecturally compatible with the site and the applicable district. In this case, the district is the 2 cottages. And little 4 is a denial based on the effect of the proposed change on adjacent buildings or structures within Fifeville. If anybody else has any additional basis for that, for my motion, in our guidelines or elsewhere that would be helpful. Oh, I'll add little 6. Whether the proposed method of construction, renovation, or restoration could have an adverse impact on the structure or site or adjacent buildings or structures.
Any further additions to that amendment, or excuse me, that motion?
I second the motion.
All right, discussion. I find it hard to approve this as written because it's a two-part thing. I could certainly support saying that I move to find the proposed development at the 200 block of 7th Street Southwest as non-compatible. But I would argue that their plan to rehabilitate those brick dwellings was well thought out and done really nicely.
Yeah.
So I want to acknowledge that, but also deny the application. So I'm struggling, right? Like I summarized. So I don't know if there's a way to word it in such that we are denying it due to the development.
I'll accept a friendly amendment that we'd like to acknowledge the applicant, the application's effort to rehabilitate these structures. Is that good enough, or would you think of another way to more eloquently?
I just feel like that the wording of saying that the corresponding rehabilitations of the brick dwellings at 204 and 208 7th Street Southwest, like both designated IPPs, they do satisfy our criteria.
Yes, they do.
So I feel like honestly we should just strike that sentence and.
So I move to find that the proposed development does not satisfy. So I amend my motion by taking out the words "and the corresponding rehabilitations of the brick dwellings at 204 and 208 7th Street Southwest."
So
both designated IPPs.
So I would suggest that
Or I can read the whole thing again.
well, what you're denying is the proposed development, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then you are denying the application as submitted, which includes proposed rehabilitation of the brick dwelling. So you're at least removing that from what you're denying.
Like our reasoning is the development.
I mean, I think that this is not, you're not writing an argument for the Supreme Court. I think we can express our intent clearly, but I think what you're trying to say is your statement, Mr. Zemer, is that the denial is of the proposed development at the 200 block of 7th Street because it's not compatible with the IPs, et cetera, and for the following reasons, the BAR denies this application, including the proposed, I hate to say it, proposed rehabilitation of the 2 buildings, and then for the following reasons. And I think stipulating, you've cited these reasons here, which are valid, and then maybe simply don't verbatim use the text, but modify it to state you're talking about the construction of the new building.
Right.
I mean, I think that
So I can just change my motion if that's
Sure,
okay.
I think so, if you don't mind.
Mr. Rosenthal might find it acceptable to second again. Okay, second time around.
That's why you have discussion. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Having considered the standards set forth within the city code, including the ATC district design guidelines, I move to find that the proposed development at the 200 block of 7th Street Southwest does not satisfy the BAR's criteria and guidelines for being compatible with the 2 IPPs, and for the reasons that I stated before, we deny the application.
And I second.
All right. I'll call for a vote. Mr. Bailey?
So if I vote yes, that means I'm denying.
Correct.
If I vote no, I'm not denying.
Correct.
No.
No, you're not denying. Okay. All right, Mr. Burrow. Now I'm confused.
denying, so yes.
All right. Ms. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Timmerman?
Yes.
Mr. Rosenthal?
Yes.
Ms. Taveney?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes. All right, so yes, 6 to 1.
Motion was
Motion
approved.
passes.
The motion to deny was approved.
Yes.
I learned that long ago when I misunderstood. They had passed the motion, but the motion was denied, so we're clear on that. All right, so what, just a little bit of quick follow-up here so everyone knows the ground rules. According to our ordinance, an application being denied, that can be appealed to City Council. That has to be done in writing within 10 business days of this decision. So tomorrow starts day 1. I'm not sure how we count Christmas Eve and Christmas, so we will verify that, but my rough
I think
math
it's 10 business days, right?
It is
What?
10 business days.
Yeah,
Pretty
it's
sure.
business days, right, so it's either the 31st or the 2nd, so, but I will inform the applicant about that. An appeal to council requires a written letter of appeal. It's not just saying, I want to appeal this, and there's a fee, $125 fee comes with that. An appeal is that's presented to council is what the applicant, or what the appellant, oddly enough, our ordinance then refers to them as the applicant, but the appellant presents their appeal, and then we process that for city council. There is no shot clock on when that occurs. We've had, 1,500 or so BAR actions since I've been involved with you all, and I've had 6 appeals. Typically, the council's taken 3 to 4 months, but that's up to them. I don't control their agenda. It is not a hearing at those meetings. I have prepared a response for council responding to the applicant's statement. So what they present me is what goes to council, not reserving a time to go and make their case. They have time to speak, but what they submit in writing becomes their argument essentially. And at those hearings or at those meetings, I present to city council. Then the applicant has 10 minutes, say whatever they wish, followed by the BAR chair is typically there to answer any questions. It's followed by whatever discussion city council wants to have, and then they take their action. Following the action of city council, the appellant can, let's say that the city council denies the COA, the COA applicant here could then appeal to the circuit court. So they have an additional step. As far as then some of the folks in the audience asked me earlier what they would do during an appeal. Again, it's not a public hearing. You can make statements to council. You can communicate to them. I think that the time to say something is in the matters from the public at the beginning of their meetings, but during the actual appeal review by city council, that it's not a hearing. They don't open the floor. Second thing I did want to...
Sorry, I just want to reiterate that. Did everyone hear that? Yeah, we can't really... All right, so just reviewing the appeal process, if this were to be appealed to city council and the public wanted to speak on that particular appeal, this project, unlike our meeting, you do talk about it during matters from the public at the city council meeting, that they won't invite the public to speak on that particular topic when it comes up on the agenda, if that makes sense. Okay? Sorry. Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah. I also wanted to say there's some comments about the BAR composition. We do have a vacancy for a landscape architect. A lot of folks don't know these are all city residents. 2 of them are architects, 2 historians. We have 2 owners of commercial businesses our business commercial property in a historic district. We have the owner of a home in a historic district, and we have a member of the planning commission, so who happens to be an architect, which is very helpful. That opening will be posted soon, if not already. We encourage people to be involved. I've not been involved with the BAR for 8 years now, and I don't think in those last 8 years we've had 20 people speak at meetings, and this year we've already had 2 meetings with, close to 20. So this is good. Thank you very much for speaking, and please come back and get involved. The other thing that I think would be helpful to understand is that Fifeville, yes, is on the National Register. And actually, I was just talking to John about this. We're not sure the exact boundary of where Fifeville ended, because Fifeville, in the old days, right, it then continued east to Ridge Street, but what that neighborhood was called is, I've heard different things, Castle Hill, but the neighborhood was deemed eligible for the National Register. I think this was when Mary Joy managed it, but they did not seek local designation. It's certainly something you all as a neighborhood could discuss. I would have to say for City Council to consider designating another historic district in the city would have to be absolutely overwhelming support from the neighborhood, but it is an option. Or if there are buildings or sites there, we have a house over on West Street, and the owner contacted us a couple months ago. This is his grandmother's house. He wants to have it designated an IPP. So there are, you can seek designation for properties in your neighborhood or for your neighborhood, and I'm certainly would be glad to talk to you about it, but it takes a lot of heavy lifting within the neighborhood. That would have to be on you all to pursue that and consider that.
If I can interrupt for a second, just to suggest that maybe Fifeville might also be interested, alternatively, in a historic conservation district, which is like an ADC district light. We would only see demolitions of contributing properties, and our review otherwise is light, but there are neighborhoods in the city that have chosen to go that route, and that may be more appealing. The process of being designated, I think Jeff would tell you, is no less cumbersome, to be honest. There still has to be a historic survey done. But the survey is really interesting.
They've done it. It's been done.
It already has been done. Does it have to be updated, though?
Yeah. I mean, they go to council, if you went in and said 99.9% of the folks want this, I think council would listen. But yes, it would be a high bar to get over, but it is an option that's there. And I think in the last couple of meetings, and I've heard a lot from the folks in Fifeville, as it's currently called, it's worth considering.
I'd like to follow up too on our chairman's comments about going to the board, to city council. I would urge you to talk to city councilors before the meeting. Each of you get there. This will be a thing. Get to them one-on-one, or groups of you. Go to every city council person and explain your feelings. It's because you're going to be limited about what you can do in the meeting if there's an appeal.
Yeah, and I believe they all have public email addresses, right, that you can find on the city website. So that's another avenue to write to them, and then it becomes part of the public record. So thank you, Mr. Warner, for the summary on the appeal process. I think we will see what happens next.
And before you adjourn, I have a question for you all. You all are welcome to stay and watch us.
So our next item, under other business, if there's any other business tonight.
The architect.
Are you here?
I want to get her spin on this.
Oh, man.
No.
You're dutifully patient. We appreciate that. So this is, doesn't even have an address. It's the Cabell Avenue porch columns. 627, sorry, I didn't see that on the screen.
So I don't know, maybe a year ago, you looked.
August 2024.
Yeah, so so in the back is an addition that you approved, but the comment was made about the front porch is falling apart. And what I love about it is a father of a kid that's renting there called the city. I can't imagine my parents ever doing anything like that.
What's
But
that?
the father of a student renting there has been upset about it. I was like, I can't. My fraternity house probably looked worse than that. But anyway, so what we have you all put in as a condition of the COA for the work in the back required them to repair the front porch. And
on the left is
that-
what I took last summer.
Yeah, yeah.
I took that in August, or actually no, this summer, sorry. That's a fairly recent picture, August this year.
So we have in the process right now a building permit request to fix it. The building permit drawing shows reusing those plain columns, the Tuscan columns there. We know there used to be the Corinthian columns there, and it actually almost looks like the same columns as somebody changed out the capitals, doesn't it?
Yeah, maybe
Yep,
so.
it does.
Which brings
So-
into question their proportions, but go ahead.
So what I'm prepared to do is sign off on the building permit and say that way it just keeps, and go and work, sign it tomorrow, but, and I was ready to say, keep going, but if the BAR wants the Corinthian columns, you have to install them.
Do they have them?
No idea. I really don't.
What they submitted in their commercial building permit for the
Yeah.
reestablishment of the porch.
That company makes the Corinthian column too, Chatsworth.
Yeah.
They do.
Yeah. So it doesn't match what's
No, it's
there,
not.
and that would be,
It's not gonna match. David.
yeah. So that's where I sort of got stuck and said, all right, they got columns,
Well,
they're gonna
there's
reuse
lots
them.
of different Corinthian columns.
And that's fine.
And
And,
capitals.
but we know that the two engaged pilasters on the, that are still there. Although, Kate, look at
Are
that.
they still,
They're not in the drawings, and I mean, we need to go by and do a site visit, I think.
what are those
because
other pictures, the other picture from the front showed it still there on the pilaster?
It was there
Correct.
in August.
That one there, but look on the far side. Is it there in that other image?
On the back one? Yeah.
Yeah, so I will just, if I may use the rotunda as an example, when we were replaced the Corinthian column capitals on the rotunda, we actually left the McKim-Mead White era pilaster capitals because they were engaged to the building, and the thermal mass of the building helped protect them from the disaggregation that the other more exposed capitals had suffered from. So there's a precedent in town where you've got two different eras of Corinthian column capitals on a very important building, just for the sake of it.
This is getting in the weeds, but the shafts are Corinthian column
Yes.
thickness.
It's not the weeds, that's the order.
Like, it looks a little funny to have
It
a
absolutely
door.
does. I also
Why are
think,
these-
I also think the entablature is proportioned to the Corinthian.
Why are these so much more narrow on the left? Is it just me? They look like they're totally different. Maybe it's just the photograph shot. There's some 2x4s holding stuff.
They are skinny.
Those are the 2x4s.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I'm looking at I see the 2x4s, but I mean, the pilaster,
It's just the,
Looks nice and wide, and
Yeah.
he's right. I think the columns are a little skinny, but
But on the right,
they
yeah,
do look good.
yeah. So on the right, we have to assume, I mean, that was there when it was surveyed, I don't know. So that's what, but I looked at the cost of a Corinthian capital versus a plain capital. It's like, so I know why they're going with that. Well, they're also using what they have there. So there's the one side that says, don't try
you gotta
to,
pay for prestige.
can we drop back a hot second and remind us of our purview here? This is in the Rugby Road
so
Historic
your
District.
purview is that you approved a COA for an addition on the back of this house.
And so they need to repair
And
the
as a
front,
condition of that COA, you require that they repair this
as you
porch.
should have.
So you have the purview to say, no, you're not repairing it right, or
How many columns are we talking about?
four, unless that back engaged column
Pilaster.
isn't, I can't, go to that next picture,
is it a
Kate. 'cause
pilaster or a
Yeah, and I.
It's a pilaster.
I never know.
It looks
a-
like it.
When it's
See, look.
engaged, it's a pilaster.
By last, and I didn't want to like walk right up to the.
But they're suggesting removing those Corinthian capitals at the pilaster and replacing
No,
all of
no,
them.
they're
So
going to
they
leave it
wanna mix and
alone.
match.
They're not even going to touch it. But what I'm, on this photo here on the far left, look all the way in the back, is that a Corinthian capital on that engaged?
It's hard to tell.
Don't know.
Yeah.
It looks like actually it's probably a wood block that's replaced the Corinthian capital that's
Yeah, I'm
been
amazed
lost.
at how much this has deteriorated in 20 years.
Yeah.
That other photograph was like from 2005.
Yeah, I also feel like the interior entablature should.
Like, how did they do that?
So oftentimes, who knows what these are made out of? Like a lot of times they were actually like a terracotta cast piece that would be two pieces that would sandwich around like a wooden shaft in the middle that actually did the work of supporting the roof, right? So it's just purely ornamental.
That's why I think they disappeared, because they look cool.
Or they get water damaged and fall apart, yeah.
You think these are the originals?
What year's the house? 30s, 40s?
This probably
1920.
Yeah.
20.
I just can't.
Probably,
Only because that's what the
yeah.
assessor's office calls anything. They're not sure.
I don't know, I mean,
Can I say as a member, I don't care?
Well, it's okay.
you
or I
can
don't have a
abstain.
I don't have a preference, I don't think,
Are
I
we
think
voting?
the Tuscan ones are fine.
Yeah, because-
Like, it just,
Well,
the Corinthian is kind of wrong.
It's
It's not true. If it's what was on the house, then it's correct.
So the perspective
It's
on this would be that the columns have been replaced. When, we don't know.
Have they? The
yes.
capitals have been replaced.
All right. And what we have is, we have documentation
Yeah.
of what it was there. So for them to use those columns and stabilize this porch, I mean, at any point in time, somebody would restore this, they could go back and recreate it. So it's not irreversible. But it's fine with me to say you can do it, but you have to use a Corinthian capital.
Can you go back to the drawing? It looks like they actually changed the shaft diameter.
I'm assuming they're using those columns,
They're
but.
planning on, I can't read the note
Or
from
they're
here.
replacing the column.
They're replacing the whole column.
Okay, so that actually looks better. but,
It does look better.
If it's actually, if it's a, I'm,
It's probably gonna be an all composite column and capital, the whole 9 yards.
It is. There's going to be a 4x6 wooden post in the middle. So,
So they're replacing the columns.
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
Well, then why not go with the Tuscan?
Right, at that point, why not?
sure, okay.
Well put.
I don't really
Do
like
we hear, anybody in favor of Ionic or Doric? Let's talk about this a little bit longer.
yeah, fancy or not fancy.
It's like the fanciest and the, well, Doric is the least fancy, but still
Yeah.
weird.
So to me, I think it's more important that they're moving forward and stabilizing this. This thing's in rough shape, and I'm glad that's being done. If somebody wanted to come back and restore this someday, we have the documentation that they could restore it.
Are they redoing the roof on here too?
They might be, I don't know. I wouldn't be
It looks
surprised.
like-
I'm
well,
surprised they're not
the-
yanking and holding off
The
and
porch
starting.
roof is definitely,
I
I can't see the needs, the notes rather, but
This isn't
Good
a vote,
something.
right? It's not a vote.
No.
No, it's just, I
No,
need guidance.
getting guidance, and that's, I was with you. I 50/50, but I figured I would get, because James, you are the man.
It's going to be more important to have it
Yeah.
just well done.
yeah.
Okay, so you're good, no,
I'm fine.
you're good as this
As
drawing
drawn, yep.
indicates.
Yeah.
Cool, thank you.
Tuscan.
Yeah, it's drawn.
Has it?
Like it.
One Ionic, one door.
Oh, Jesus, no.
Did I, so I'm going to wrap up.
Have a triple height.
Yeah,
So the architecture students can study it.
wrap up with a local history trivia question. And because I want James, and I think I've already asked this one before, but in front of the fire station
Oh,
on
yeah.
Ridge Street.
We talked about this.
We did?
The Point Church,
No, the bell.
the bell.
Has everyone gone by and seen it?
I drove by it.
The bell?
Saw it.
I've seen it.
So what was it, when was it? In the 50s?
50s, like 51.
Like the government, the feds they cast 50-some replicas of the Liberty Bell, complete with it painted on crack. And gave them to the states. The states of Virginia didn't know what to do with it, so they gave it to Monticello. Monticello didn't want it, so they gave it to the city. So, there you go. And now people are asking me, what can the city do with it? And I'm like,
All right.
What else do we need to talk about?
Are there any other items?
why don't we, we'll go down and get your coat so I can let you all out, but no other items. Have a happy and safe holiday. I think we should all go over and bang on Carl's window, make sure he's doing all right.
But I thought you said he was going to be anesthetized.
We're adjourning.
To somewhere?
That makes it
I want
funny.
to thank Sherry